Really?
California.
I don't even know where Eureka, California is.
It's about 200 miles north of San Francisco.
Oh.
In the middle of weed country.
The whole state's weed country now.
Well, but I'm going to look at a weed deal.
Can I just tell you that you are impeccably dressed in a very unique and original way.
Thank you.
I mean, you're dressed really well, but I've never seen a guy dressed as well as you with such unusual colors and the tie and the shirt. And
my wife dresses me.
Does she?
Yeah.
She's trying to keep you from getting laid. That's what it is.
Well, Sally, did you hear that?
She's making you just look real flamboyant where people just don't know what to think.
Yeah.
I like the whole thing. The scarf.
Thank you.
You got in the pocket?
Yeah, this is how I dress, though.
Can you pull this right up to you?
Sure.
Sorry, these things are very directional.
This is how I dress.
All the time?
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, I mean, at the house, I boxer shorts and a T-shirt.
That's it?
Yeah, in the house.
And then outside?
Outside, I'm normally dressed like
up.
this, or in my uniform, my three-piece suit. Yesterday, I gave a talk in Beverly Hills to some kids, and I was in my three-piece suit.
What did you give a talk about?
One of my mentees is a guy named Jason Capital, who is he doesn't say it this way, but he is the preeminent expert how to get laid. And he's got not quite as many followers as you do, but 1 million or 1.5 million.
Really? And it's just teaching people how to get laid?
No. He doesn't build self-esteem.
Oh.
But at the end of the day, all these little weenies want to get laid.
So he teaches them how to not be a little weenie anymore.
Correct.
How to
Correct.
man up or something.
Yeah, and so he asked me if I'd talk to his. He's got different programs. You know, they sell, upsell.
Right.
His premier group, I talked to yesterday. Says about 60, 70 guys who obviously must pay the most money to him monthly.
Yeah.
But he's got 40,000 people that pay him between $80 and $3,000 a month.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Fucking right. I know.
And he's just teaching them how to be a man?
Crap.
Well, how did he learn how to be a man?
How did I?
How did he?
Oh, his dad beat the fuck out of him, just like my dad beat me.
Oh, well, that's what we need more, right?
And Jason Capital's not his name. He's got a Polish name. He's from Detroit.
Oh.
But that's a big secret, that name. But he's Jason Capital. And he's good looking. He's a really good looking guy.
Well, that helps if you want to get laid.
Yeah, and if you want to teach people how to get laid, that helps.
Yeah, but you can't really teach that, though. Like, you can't teach being a good-looking guy.
Yeah, well, no. But I told the kids when I was their age, and I was single and pre-AIDS, I got more ass than a toilet seat at a bus station.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but I did. And last night, I had dinner with a buddy of mine who, unfortunately, he's got Agent Orange now.
He's got Agent Orange?
He's a war hero, Marine war hero from Vietnam. And he was one of the guys that I used to run around with. And I brought back some of the memories, and his daughter's going, "You mean you were a slut, Dad?"
Whoa.
And
shouldn't talk like that in front of the young lady.
Yeah, and then I was sorry I brought up the subject.
Yeah, you can't do that in front of certain gals, especially today.
Yeah.
Man horn's not appreciated anymore.
No.
So this guy's, I can't believe people are paying $3,000 a month. What could he possibly be giving him for $3,000 a month?
Well, content of some sort. I've never looked at it, so I can't really tell you.
Content.
Yeah. Content's the name of the game.
Jamie, I need a mug, buddy. Sorry. Content is the name of the game, but $3,000 seems like you'd have to come to your house and give you back rubs. I mean, that's a lot of fucking money, man.
Yeah.
That's like a mortgage. That's crazy.
Yeah.
$3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Like,
now, the $80 a month I can understand.
Yeah, well, even that's a lot. Like, what is he giving you?
Well,
I mean, Netflix is $9. You can watch documentaries till your ears bleed. You know?
Yeah, I've only turned my Netflix on a couple of times. It's interesting, but yeah. So I was there, gave a talk. It ran over. I talked 2.5 hours, and then I went out to Valencia to see my buddy, the Marine guy, for dinner. And it took 3.5 hours to get to Valencia from Beverly Hills.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous piece of traffic we have out here.
Yeah.
So a scene of traffic. It's pretty. Yeah. It's way worse than it was when I first moved here in '94, and I gotta wonder what it's going to be like 20 years from now. It's going to be insane. It's going to be.
Well, then hopefully they'll have hover cars that dodge each other.
Well, we were talking about that yesterday. We watched some clips from Blade Runner. Movie Blade Runner.
Great flick.
That was supposed to be 2019. Like, that's only supposed to be 2 years from now. Isn't that
really?
crazy?
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Daryl Hannah, Rutger Hauer. Great movie.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite all-time sci-fi movies. But hard to believe that was supposed to be just a couple of years from now. Like, people really overestimated the amount of technology we'd have by then.
Well, I mean, they overestimated that, but in some things they underestimated.
Like the internet, yeah.
Correct. I mean, when I first said 30 years ago, the two things to get involved in were healthcare and telecommunications, which morphed into the internet. I had no idea what the internet was going to be. People measure returns on their investment and return on the minute, not return on the hour.
Right.
or the month, or return on capital, because things can change, in a few seconds.
Well, how do you feel about that? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Go
how do
ahead.
you feel about that of a guy that's been an investor for as long as you've been? How do you feel about this new thing where they're using computers and algorithms to buy and trade? Like literally at the speed of sound. They're just click, 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 going back and forth depending on the trends. And they're paying money to get a server that's as close as possible to the exchange, so that they're literally like buying and selling in milliseconds.
They're a millionth of a second ahead of everybody else because they're closer to the exchange.
Yeah.
I came up the old way. I don't really. I appreciate the progress, but I don't like it because most people don't understand it. And like I was tweeting this morning, gold's down. Oil broke $48 a barrel or $49 a barrel. And how has your 401k improved? What are your gurus telling you to do now? The market's up, depending on how you want to measure, 25% since Trump got elected on the 8th of November, and hardly anybody's benefited. The guys that have benefited are the guys that drive the indices. He's created $3 trillion, in market cap on the just the New York Stock Exchange, but most people haven't benefited because 70 to 90%, depending on how you want to count or calculate, of that money is big money. Rockefeller, Peña, Trump, etc. And so the average guy, the average Joe, didn't benefit. I ask anybody listening, check your 401k or your pension plan. Tell me how much it's up since November 8th. Most people say nothing. So part of that is just what you're alluding to, the algorithms, because it's the fast big money that's making all the big money. Although hedge funds have fallen out of favor the last couple of years because their returns haven't been the same as even the indices.
So you're feeling, how do you feel about the things that Trump is doing right now and the way he's bringing on all these guys that have worked for these major corporations like Exxon, and they're doing that whole thing that he announced the other day of creating 45,000 jobs in the Gulf Coast. And like if you look at it, there was a thing on the New York Times today, I think, that was talking about, maybe it was Time Magazine, it was talking about he's created 239,000 jobs since he's been in office, which is, what is it, a couple of months?
Yeah.
Not that long. So are you, from a business standpoint, forget about like socially,
well,
but
let me make
standpoint?
a disclaimer first. Okay. I know Trump.
Okay.
And I knew him from that late 80s and the early 90s because one of my partners and one of my mentors was Governor Hugh Carey, the former governor of New York. So because of his New York relationship, and also one of my ex-business partners was Mayor Wagner, the former mayor of New York. So I knew Trump then. So, but I haven't talked to him in over 20 years. But getting back to your original question, I believe that as there's a reason why he's meeting with all the CEOs of all these major industries, because nobody else has ever done it. I believe, and as I endorsed him, I was one of the early endorsers of Trump. And I said that if he's serious, and he'll win. He knows how to win. He doesn't know how to lose. If he's serious, he's going to rock the fucking planet. Not just the U.S., but the world. And the financial models are changing in Europe. Not just because of Brexit. The financial models are changing in Russia. The financial models are changing in China because they've got an alpha male in office that is surrounding himself with alpha males. It's no coincidence that 60% of his staff are ex-military. I mean, the press secretary is a goddamn lieutenant commander of the Navy. Not counting all the 4-star generals that he's got. So I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with everything he tweets. I wouldn't tweet as much as he does, but I do agree that the country needed change, financial change, and he's going to bring it. Now, whether he gets elected a second term or not, I don't know. But I do believe, and I've said, Joe, that this is November the 8th was the beginning of the greatest transformation of wealth the planet has ever fucking seen since World War II.
How so?
Because, well, I mean, just look at $3 trillion so far in the stock market. I believe it's going to be $100 trillion. He's going to add to the market before he leaves office.
Please explain to a dummy like me. How
Well,
does
you're
that
not
work?
a dummy, but
how does
anyway.
that happen?
Okay. Caterpillar, even though they got in some trouble for taxes, they got raided here a couple days ago. You may not have seen.
Caterpillar, what are the, is that?
Caterpillar, they make tractors.
Right, okay.
Okay. The infrastructure is shot in this country. Okay. The bridges are all 40, 50, 60 years past their prime. Okay. I didn't know a bridge could go past its prime. The roads are 50, 60, 70 years past their prime. The infrastructure for pipelines are past their prime. So he's going to rebuild all this. He's going to spend supposedly $3 trillion, which is not a coincidence because he added $3 trillion to the stock market. But he's going to add infrastructure. So all the stocks like Caterpillar, AT&T, Boeing, etc., have gone up 15, 20, 25, 30% since he got elected. Because the big money, the smart money, knows that those companies are going to get all the contracts. The real no-brainer is aerospace, not just because he cut the cost of Air Force One down $700 million or whatever he did, but because he's going to bring the United States military back to what it was under Reagan 30 years ago. And being a vet myself, I believe a strong country. I think we get involved in too much shit outside the country. Okay, but I mean, a strong country, then nobody's going to screw with us. He's going to bring back jobs. I believe he will build a wall. And my mother and grandmother swam across the Rio Grande River as illegal aliens in 1924-25. My mother, God rest her soul, we were just out at the cemetery a couple days ago, wasn't a naturalized citizen until she was in her early 30s. So but I figured out a way to pay for the wall. And yours is the first show I'm going to say it on.
Okay.
Okay. They arrested Guzman, the great drug trafficker.
Right.
Okay. They also confiscated $39 billion from him.
Did they really? He had $39 billion? Whoa.
Okay. 39. It's better than have
ballin'.
podcasts. I mean.
Yeah. That's
okay.
pretty good.
So why not pay for the wall with his money?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But do you think that a wall is feasible and it's a good idea to have this big fucking...
I know it's feasible, but I don't. But I'm a guy that I would rather pull the trigger and see if it works than not do anything. The biggest difference between most of the kids that are out there trying to be successful like yourself and some of the other people you've interviewed here is they spreadsheet it to death, they read books, they listen to podcasts, and then they never do a fucking thing. Okay? I've had kids come to my seminar that have read 700 books on personal development.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was 700 books on personal development. Okay? But they've never pulled the trigger.
Paralysis by analysis.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that can definitely happen.
Yeah.
That can definitely happen.
Yeah, and the like the kids yesterday, they'd all read books, and I don't even know what the charm books are. I have no idea. There's actually a program called The Art of Charm, which is the same thing, how to get laid. That's not what they call it, but it's a deal.
It is exactly what it is, right?
Yeah, well, that's I've looked at it, and I've actually been interviewed on the kids' show.
That seems to me like saying something like how to get famous. Instead of like just get really good at something and
Correct.
you get famous, like how to get laid. Well, just be an excellent person and people want to fuck you.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, I proved that for a lot of years.
Did you?
Yeah, I
you
did.
You rascal, look at you.
But I mean, pre-AIDS.
Pre-AIDS. Yeah, that's when you slowed down.
Well, no, I got married.
Take it down a notch.
I got married. I got married.
Yeah, everybody was scared. People don't know today. Kids aren't scared of AIDS anymore. But back in the 80s when Magic Johnson got AIDS, I will never forget where I was in my car, when he got HIV rather, when they announced it on the radio. I was driving in my car. I was like, oh my God. It was like a scene in a zombie movie where you thought this was the beginning. This was the first one. And then eventually it was going to spread across the entire country and everyone you knew
like
was going to be dead. Yeah, we were really worried.
Yeah.
We were really worried.
Were you single then?
Oh, yeah. I think I was 20.
Were you a stand-up comic then?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 21, I think.
Because
I think
know
I just started doing stand-up.
In my research, one of the things I saw was when, I don't know if you were a teenager, when you were in a competition and you knocked a guy cold in the first 10 seconds or 2 minutes or 1 minute. It's on the internet competition you were in. I think you were still a teenager, maybe. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah.
The Taekwondo tournament. I fought a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And but I mean, you practice a lot to get good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you have to.
It just doesn't happen.
Well, you don't. Yeah, you have to actually do it too. It's exactly what you're talking about. You know, you can read theory all you want, but until you get theory is one thing and thoughts are another thing, but actions are critical. You have to think about what happened during the actions and be prepared to fail.
Dalai Lama at his 80th birthday, which I was not invited to. Maybe you were.
Damn, you weren't invited?
No. The Dalai, he made a little speech, and at the end of the speech, he's got a sentence: meditation is great, prayer is great, couple of other things are great, but the best thing is taking action, action, action.
Yeah.
Okay, and and this is what I teach, and is to take action. And I had a lot of success, but I've had a lot of failures. But nobody's interested in my failures. They're only interested in the times I've got it across the goal line.
Well, Tom Segura is a huge fan of yours, and that's how I found out about you.
He's
Tom
a good
Segura,
kid.
he thinks you're hilarious. He thinks
Yeah.
your ruthless approach to coaching people and advice is pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, I mean, when I had lunch with him a few days ago, I think I told you on the phone, I was expecting he and his wife to be keeping me rolling in the aisles. They were straight. They were like
Look how they
preachers.
dressed. He dressed in a suit.
Yeah. They were like preachers. Look at him. He looks like Preacher Man.
He does. He looks like he easily could be some sort of a pastor with his beautiful tie. Look how
Yeah.
slim he is, too, now.
Yeah.
Tom Segura kept the weight off. Amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
He's lost like 60 pounds or something
Really?
crazy like that. Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah,
damned.
he had a competition with his friend Bert Kreischer, and they did it over 2 days on the show. Like they weighed in twice in a row, and Tom won the weigh-in both days.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal for him to. I really think he lost more than 50 pounds, which is pretty impressive.
Well, a few years ago, 10, 12 years ago, I decided at 60 that I was going to become a power lifter. I don't
Really?
know what possessed me. So I gained 65 pounds. I took human growth hormones. I did the whole 9 yards. And I got up to 280.
Jesus Christ.
And then I was trying to get up to 300, but I couldn't get up to 300 pounds, weighing. I tried like hell. I mean, I ate everything. I'd eat everything on this table. Man, I didn't care. And then I realized, I also don't have the right bone structure. And so I decided that there's certain things I can only do so much weight. So I was doing bench presses with my son. At that time, he was 28, and we were doing sets. And I heard this rip in my bicep, but I kept working out. But what I had done is I ripped my long head bicep. And so, but one of the reasons they call me the Bionic Man, because I just had two full knee replacements in the last couple months. I've got an artificial hip. I have artificial shoulders. I have a titanium collarbone. And I don't have any long head bicep. And so these are all.
What's a long head bicep?
You have 3 bicep muscles.
Right.
It's the one that makes the hump.
Right. You don't
It's
have that
the
one?
across the top. No, I don't have that one.
So yours just goes flat when you flex?
Well, yeah. But now my muscles go flat anyway because I don't work out like I used to.
But you could have got that repaired. You chose
Oh,
not
no,
to.
I know. I got it repaired not once, as they say in Texas, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And I fucked them up all 3 times.
How'd you fuck it up? You kept lifting?
Yep.
You're an
lifting
animal.
too early.
Look at you maniac.
Too
At
early.
60.
At 60,
Powerlifting.
yeah, powerlifting.
How long is how quick was too early?
2 months.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Well, like in my knees, they told me
Wish
to
we were
wait a
friends. I
year
would've
before I
told
had
you.
the second knee done.
Yeah?
I waited 10 weeks. They
Oh.
were right and I was wrong.
Yeah, I would imagine they would be right and you would be wrong.
Yeah. So now, when I get up from here, you'll see how I get up gingerly.
So, like when they build you an artificial knee, do they chop off the top of your knee and screw
chop
it in
the
place?
Top, the top and the bottom,
Yeah.
the femur, and then they put, it's like a joint like this, and then it has these like spikes that go into the bone marrow, and they cement them.
Oh, Jesus.
But what they didn't tell me is, see, your knee goes like this, moves both ways. Well, my knees only go this way.
It goes
So
up and down. It
So I
doesn't-
had to relearn how to put my socks on. Because when you put your socks on, your leg swings over.
You can't swing your leg over.
No.
So there's no sideways movement.
Correct.
Oh,
Correct.
Jesus Christ. That seems like it would be severely limiting, right?
Yeah, well, it is. Well, I don't think I'll be. When in martial arts, you say we're going to roll. Is
Yeah,
that how
you won't be rolling.
I won't be rolling.
Now, did you have ligament damage or meniscus damage?
Yeah,
Like, what
I
was-
had 3 surgeries on my right knee for all the above, and I had 1 surgery on my left knee
Why'd they decide to replace the entire knee?
because I had no cartilage left. I was bone on bone from running tens of thousands of miles. I went to a biohack a couple years ago. I didn't even know what that meant, biohacking.
Yeah.
And I went to the biohacking and all the guys, and I met a guy I really liked. Decina was there, a guy named Decina. And all these things I'd been doing since the 70s. I ran 100 miles in piss blood, which used to be the benchmark if you were a man and a runner. You run 100 miles and you piss blood. Okay?
That makes you a man?
Yeah, because that's what then it did. And
Only
I-
then can you breed.
Yeah, exactly. And I've run marathons and I've run a lot of miles, and my knees paid for it. So I haven't really been able to run in 20 years.
Have you ever looked at stem cell therapy for it?
Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, I'm going to Mexico in a couple of months. I tried it 25 years ago when it first came out in Switzerland.
They're doing it here now. You know, you don't have to go to Mexico.
No, well, I didn't know they were doing it.
Yeah. I'll talk to you after the show.
Okay.
I'll send you. There's a great place in Vegas.
Yeah.
That they're doing it, but they've been able to regenerate meniscus tissue, cartilage, all sorts of things like that. It's a slow process, but it can be done now.
Okay.
But it seems like yours are already replaced
mine are
anyway.
gone.
Now, can you like play tennis? Can you move around? Can you go side to side?
I can go this way. I
Straight?
can't move this way.
Oh wow.
I can't move that way.
You couldn't tell while you're walking.
No,
totally
I
normal.
walk around. It's as Fernando Lamas, the great actor, said many years ago,
what?
it's better. Fernando Lamas.
I know he is.
Okay, he says it's better to look good than feel good.
Well, I don't know if he's right.
He was married to Esther Williams.
Yeah, I think he's wrong. I think he's definitely wrong. I think you're better off feeling good than looking good. Because if you look good and you feel like shit, you'll live in hell. But if you look like shit but you feel fantastic, as long as no one's looking at you and you're not freaking out, what do you care, right?
Yeah.
I think he's wrong. So, your knee and your hips, like, what did they saw the top of your hip off too? Do the same thing?
Yeah, same thing.
Oh, Jesus. So you've got the top of your femur and the bottom of your femur sawed
legs.
off. Jesus, Dan. You kill a bear with a knife?
I slowed it down with a handgun and then I killed it with a knife.
What
Big
the
Bowie
hell?
knife.
What was going on? The bear was trying to kill you?
Well, let me just say, I have 3 regrets in life. It leads into this. The segue will become obvious. First regret is the day before my mom died, I told her, you're not fucking sick, you're not fucking sick, you're not going to die. She dies the next day. Okay. Second regret I have is the fact that I'm a combat-trained Army officer who never saw combat. Okay? Never got any real trigger time. Okay? The third regret is that I didn't set my goals high enough, as successful as I am. Okay. So because I tried to get involved with mercenary things when I got out of the military about 10 years because I had done very well as far as business was concerned. And I actually did a joint venture with the CIA. It's all public record now, and my statute of limitations passed, so I can't get in any trouble. And that didn't work out, so I decided I'm going to go do big game hunting. I'll see if I can, So I started with rifles. I know some guys do bows. I believe you do. That was too easy. Then I did a handgun.
Handgun?
Handgun. 4.54 console used to be the biggest handgun made 25, 30 years ago. So I hunted handgun. And you got to get pretty close, handgun.
How close do you get?
Well, I've been as close as you.
To what?
To the charging buffalo.
Oh, Jesus Christ. A buffalo was charging this close and you shot it with a handgun?
Yeah, I got run over by him. The buffalo.
Well, so like.
Well, let's get back to the bear.
So, but the handgun, like, do you trying to get inside of 20 yards? Like, how close are you trying to get?
Well, it depends how good a shot you are.
Right.
But I mean, they're effective at 50 yards, but the accuracy is not so good. At
Right.
50 yards, but 20 yards is pretty good. 20 meters. So so we're chasing this bear down right on the borderline of Alaska and whatever the Canadian provinces up there, and I get within about 40, 50 yards of him. And then he turns around because he says, why am I running? He asks himself, why am I running? And he turns around and I hit him a couple times with the 4.54. And now he knows. So then he runs again. And so I chase him some more. And to make a long story short, by the time I unloaded all 5, because it only has 5 shells, he's wounded. He would have died probably in an hour or 2 hours, but he's still, dangerous. So then I jumped on him and stabbed him 70, 80 times.
Jesus Christ, Dan. 70 or 80 times?
I don't remember because the adrenaline's pumping so hard. The hunter guide said my arm looked like a jackhammer. It was going up and down so fast. But I mean, I'm just I'm just jacked up.
And where are you stabbing him? What part of his body?
I stabbed him in the chest, around the head, the neck, in here. I was trying to hit a main artery.
And is he trying to bite you while you're doing this?
He's with the big claws, but I'm staying under the claws and he's losing coordination. He could have got me, but he didn't. He didn't.
Jesus Christ. Is this a brown bear or a black bear?
Brown. But the better story is the buffalo. Now,
how do you get a better story than you maniacally, homicidally stabbing a brown bear to death after
No,
it shot you?
I went to Australia. There, you saw the movie Crocodile Dundee.
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, there's a real Crocodile Dundee. His name was Barry Lees. So I went down there to hunt with him in Australia for 10 days. and again with a handgun. And I said, I want to get a big bull. Like
a water buffalo.
Well, yeah, exactly. And he said, okay, well, we have to go into a certain part of Australia, near Darwin, up in the north. And he said that I can't promise he's still going to be there, but there's a big pond about 4 or 5 times as big as this room, and he should be there in the late afternoon, scratching his back on the roots overhanging. So we got there, we hiked in 4 or 5 hours, and he was there just like he said he was going to be there. And he said that you want him, don't want to just shoot him in the back. No, I want him charging me. So he says, okay.
Wait a minute, you wanted him to charge you?
Yeah.
Why did you want that?
I never saw combat.
But why is that so important to you? Like, what
Well, it just is.
So just in your mind, you needed to be.
I'm not
you needed to
fulfilled.
experience life and death.
Yep.
It had to be like life and death combat.
Correct.
And if it wasn't with the enemy, it was with some charging beast.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. So he throws pebbles at him. He spins around and he says he won't come out this way because it's too far for him to jump, and he can't jump that high. Just like magic, that goddamn bull jumped 15 feet in the fucking air, spun around and ran right at me. So about where you are, as he ran over me and I fell back, I shot once and I hit him through the chin, went out his nose, but it missed his brain. He put one hoof on my hip, and that's why I had to get a hip eventually, and one hoof on my left knee. So arguably that's why I have a left knee. So I felt like a train hit me. So he keeps running. I get up. I'm dusting myself off. So I've shot 1 out of 5 bullets. So I said, well, I'm going to kill this bastard. So I'm chasing him in the jungle.
With a blown out knee and a blown out hip?
Correct. I'm chasing him in the jungle. And the guide, Barry Lees, is yelling, Dan, I can't hear him though because I'm all pumped up. Dan, he's screaming at me. So I get close to him. I shoot a couple more times. Then I shoot a couple more times. And then the bull gets tired. He spins around just like in the movies and decides to charge from about that wall. And just as he got about to where that chair is, I fired again, click. I'm empty.
Oh, no.
And he falls dead at my feet from the other times I hit him.
Jesus Christ.
And so, but what Barry Lees was yelling at me, he says, you're fucking empty! You're fucking empty! He was telling me I had no more bullets left.
Wow.
But I couldn't hear that. Now, when you get in contest martial arts, do you go into automatic?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. You can think very little while you're in there. You're supposed to be. I mean, you have when you separate a little bit. Sometimes you have time to think about what you're going to do, but most of it is you're relying on your training and your conditioning.
Well, I hear you when you're announcing those deals about there's some guys that are really in good condition, that they're animals or beasts, and it seems to me that that's one of the telling things. If you run out of gas in the second, third, or fourth round, you're screwed.
Yeah, well, there's different styles of fighting, too. There's some guys who they sprint, and they can blow you out in the first couple of rounds. But if they get into the third, fourth, and fifth round, they significantly diminish their output. And that's some guys have strategies, like to weather the storm. You just have to figure out a way to weather certain fighter storms and take them into the second and third round. Like there's a guy like Hector Lombard, is a famous MMA fighter. He was a champion in other organizations. He's a scary, scary guy. And for one round, he might be the scariest motherfucker in the division. He's terrifying. He's built like a brick shithouse. He comes at you fast and hard, but he's so muscular and so strong, and his output is so explosive and kinetic. He's not like a rhythmic, slow, technical, methodical fighter. He's a sprinter. And so after that initial sprint, he's not the same in the second and third rounds usually.
Does he win?
Sometimes he wins a lot. I mean, he's a world-class fighter for sure.
The guys I like were the Diaz brothers.
Oh yeah, well they're the opposite.
Yeah.
They're guys who just come at you and they can throw volume for days. They don't ever get tired. Those guys can go on and on and on and on and on. They break people with their pace.
Yeah, and the when he beat the older one, I guess beat McGregor.
No, the younger one actually.
The younger
it's
one?
Nate.
Okay,
yeah, Nate is the younger one.
Okay. Yeah, younger one.
Yeah, that was a great fight. It was a fun fight. The second fight was fun too. Yeah. So from not having combat experience in the war, you had like this real combat experience. You had this desire to put yourself in danger and
Correct.
to test yourself.
Yeah, I wanted to see if I was going to live or die.
So that's why you decided the next way to do this is to do it with a water buffalo. Now, you were talking earlier about mercenary work. Like what kind of mercenary work are you talking about?
In the early 80s, I had the privilege of being mentored by Konstantin Gratsos, who was the chief executive of Onassis Shipping Line, the 60-year right-hand man of Aristotle Onassis. He was one of my mentors. And he, the Vatican, the CIA, Imelda Marcos, and a guy named Talaveras of Mobil Oil, the CEO, came up with an idea that they were going to invade Haiti, just like Clinton did 12 years later. Okay, and for all different reasons. Onassis wanted the shipping of the oil. Mobil wanted the oil. The Vatican wanted more Catholics. CIA wanted to have them not be a baby Doc Duvalier communistic. He didn't want the communists right at near Florida. And I don't know what the fuck Imelda was there for, but she wasn't buying shoes or anything, but she was there. And I was put in charge of that project by Mr. Gratsos, and we put together a mercenary army. And we had some of the great mercenaries, a guy named Mike Williams, one of the great mercenaries of the 70s and 80s. And just as we were going to launch the attack and land with boots on the ground, Cyrus Vance, Secretary of State, pulled the plug on the deal. But I was going to come out of a helicopter just like Schwarzenegger does. By the way, you can't hold those big guns. Even Arnie can't. The way they do it, they're too heavy. But anyway, I was going to be the first feet on the ground. And then when that thing fell to shit, I said, well, maybe I'm just not meant to see combat,
Wow. So it was something that was really important to you.
Yeah.
But was it important to you because you didn't know how you would fare, or because you knew how you would fare and you wanted to test yourself, or you just wanted to experience?
I was almost 100% positive I knew that I had balls and I wouldn't, weenie out. But until you do it, you don't know for sure. Growing up as a kid on the hood and being arrested 5 times and all the trouble I got in.
You grew up in the hood?
Yeah.
What hood?
East L.A.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
In fact, we were just over there. I like to go to the hood 2-3 times a year just to see it again. And so I went from the Jonathan Club, where I'm a member, to the hood, and with my same driver I've had many years. And we took one of my mentees, who's also from the hood, Cambodian kid, because the Cambodians drove the Mexicans out of my portion of the hood. And so I went back to the hood, and he went to the same grammar school I did, Rhoda Street. He went to the same Catholic church I went to. Now, for your audience, nobody believes this, but I used to teach catechism. I used to teach Bible study because I wanted to be a priest.
You wanted to be a priest?
When I was a little kid.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so it's hard to believe, but I did. But maybe all little Catholic boys, when they're 10, 12, 13, want to be priests. Maybe not, but I did. So when I got in a lot of trouble when I was in the 5th, 6th grade, I dropped an aquarium, and it's on my set. I pointed a picture from the 2nd floor. I dropped an aquarium on my teacher's head from the 2nd floor, and if he hadn't moved 6 inches, we wouldn't be sitting here. I would have gone to San Quentin, I would have gone juvie, blah, 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 and I would have had a different life.
So
but he moved, and I only shattered his shoulder and fucked him up.
Jesus Christ.
But that's not the worst thing I did in school. I was expelled 3 times before I got out of grammar school.
What?
Yeah.
Grammar school?
Grammar school.
What'd you do?
Well, I did that to the teacher.
They expelled you for how long?
3 weeks.
And then you come back and the teacher's still fucked up?
Then another guy
where
was screwing. No, I didn't say sorry. Another guy in the school.
Did you feel sorry?
No, I didn't try to kill. I really didn't. That wasn't in my mind.
How old were you at the time?
I was 11, 12.
So why were you doing that?
He pissed me off, obviously. I don't really remember why. I know I dropped the goddamn aquarium, though. That's a given. So another guy, I got in a fight with a guy and I knocked him down. And I was the biggest guy in grammar school. I wasn't,
How do you remember that you were the biggest guy in grammar school?
Because I was the tallest.
Oh, okay.
Tallest guy in grammar school. Okay. And so some other guy came up and I got in a fight, knocked him down, and apparently he broke his elbow when he fell down. And the kid says, "You broke my arm, you broke my arm." And then I went over and I broke his arm in 6 places for real after that. Now you got a broken arm,
mean
asshole.
Little fucking kid.
Yeah, I guess I was.
So do you think that this is from growing up in the hood, just being in the dog-eat-dog environment?
Yeah. I'm positive it was.
Yeah, and so that led you to really want to test yourself in the military.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
And when you look back on all that stuff and all that intense aggression and all those thoughts, did you did you take anything out of that you carry with you as an older man?
Absolutely. Well, I'm a kinder, gentler guy.
Yeah, you seem
now.
like a real nice guy.
Yeah, I am. But I've turned that aggression into success in business.
What about peace and calm? Do you have that too?
I don't meditate. I don't do any of that stuff.
But do you feel good? Do you feel like
I feel like
peace?
Twisted Steel and Panther piss.
Ooh,
I mean,
Twisted Steel and Panther piss is an odd combination to feel like.
well, that's a Texas oil field. Yeah. And I just visited one of my buddies from the war who's unfortunately got Agent Orange.
Yeah, you were telling me that. Like, so what are the effects of Agent? How
Well,
old is this
as you get
gentleman?
older, your immune system breaks down, and the Agent Orange that you had latent in your system now starts to come out.
Like, what is it? How's it manifest
Well, I mean, he's
itself?
lost 40 pounds. This guy, I saw him pick up a Corvette when we were kids, and now he has trouble getting up steps.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, Agent Orange is some scary shit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was an exfoliant, right? Or
Correct.
defoliant that they sprayed on the jungle in Vietnam where all these soldiers were down there in it. Crazy
Yeah.
shit that they just experimented on those kids.
yeah.
And
yeah.
that's just, again, folks, don't forget, that was 50 years ago. It
Yeah,
wasn't
I mean,
that long
it's,
ago at all.
yeah, I mean, everything. It's like I sat next to McNamara when he was president of the World Bank, who was one of the fathers of the Vietnam War, and he was a weird dude. I mean, he said that the world is going to end in the apocalypse, and it's going to be the haves against the have-nots someday. He says, hopefully, you won't be around when that happens. He says there's certain problems on the planet that are never going to get solved. And he talked about the Israeli Middle East problem.
Palestinian?
He says, yeah. He says we have had at that time 2 holy wars. And you could argue that this is just an extension of the Holy War, what's happening. And he says we didn't work it out 700 AD, and we didn't work it out in 1100 AD, and we're not going to work it out this time. And so he was kind of a negative guy. Glass was half empty instead of half full.
What do you think?
I don't think we're going to work it out there either.
No?
I've been in partnership with the Israeli government. I've been in partnership with the Kuwaiti government, the Yemen government, and a couple others there. And it's a bridge too far. I just don't see it happening. I just don't.
And why is that?
Well, I mean, from the Muslim point of view, and they have the right to practice whatever religion they want. But it's an 8th, 9th century religion in the 21st century. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's not socially acceptable. You talk about politically correct. A lot of the stuff they do transcends being politically correct. I mean, I don't think that's going to change. I just don't. I hope I'm wrong.
So you think that the way they, like, for instance, the way they treat women, the way they won't let women drive, the way they make them wear their religious, how do you say
Burqa.
it? Hijab, yeah.
Yeah, the burqas. Yeah,
well, so you think that that's just going to stay the way it is forever?
In my lifetime, in your lifetime, maybe
hundreds of years from now?
Maybe.
Sort of like comparing Christianity from the Inquisition to today.
Yeah.
Like, so it needs to somehow or another catch up.
Yeah, and maybe 500 years it will. For the planet's sake. I think we haven't been, aliens haven't come to this planet because they look at us, we're all fucked up.
Is that what you think?
Yeah.
Do you contemplate this?
Yeah.
Really?
This
You
is
ever
when,
sit around
when you
smoking a cigar with a glass of scotch going, where are the fucking aliens?
Yeah.
Come over here, I want to shoot you.
Yeah. I don't think they're interested. What are we going to give? What are they going to learn from us?
Well, I would be absolutely fascinated if I found a group of chimpanzees that had figured out how to make fire with sticks and were building structures and were starting some sort of an organized war against other chimpanzees. I would be absolutely fascinated. If they had weapons and they were sneaking up on these other chimps and using spears, I'd be like, holy shit, look at this. This is us a long time ago.
Well,
and I would imagine that aliens would feel the same way about us.
Well, I mean, except that they're probably 1,000,000 years advanced.
Maybe, or maybe 100 years advanced.
Well, if they're 100 years advanced, I think they would have come down and seen us.
Maybe they're not ready yet.
Yeah, well.
Maybe 100 years from now, we won't be ready to go to other planets, but maybe someone out there is just a little bit more advanced than us and they're watching.
Well, Elon Musk wants to die on Mars.
That motherfucker's ridiculous.
Okay, he wants to die on Mars.
With an electric car.
Yeah, and do you know when the first electric car was, Joe?
Yeah, a long time ago. It was in the early 1900s,
No,
right?
1860s.
Was it really?
Okay, if we really wanted electric cars, It was the first car. For 20, 30 years, they only had if we really wanted electric cars, don't you think we could have developed them by now?
Well, we definitely should have, but the influence of the fossil fuel companies.
Correct.
Yeah.
And do you know why Aramco is going public, the national oil company of Saudi Arabia?
No.
Okay. You're going to hear it first here.
Jesus, I can't believe
Okay.
this.
They're selling 2% of the company, not because they need money, because they've got all the money in the world. They want, because when you go public, you have to have a reserve report. The reserve report is going to show how many barrels they have. Proved producing, proved, unproved. And we've been guesstimating for years and years and years that Aramco's got a couple 100 million barrels, maybe 300, 400, 500 million barrels, billion barrels, excuse me. That report's going to show they have trillions of barrels. And there's no fucking way they're ever going to let fracking, electric cars, or anything else. When they're out of their trillions of barrels, then they're going to let electric cars come to pass.
So you think like all these oil crisis warnings and all the talk about them running out of oil in places is all bullshit?
Yep.
100%.
100.
What do you think oil is?
Okay, let me back up a second. In August 2014, I was on not a show as prestigious as yours, but some other guy's show, and I said when oil was $120 a barrel, we will see $40 oil before we see $200 oil. I'll bet both of my testicles.
Oh, strong bet.
Okay, in February last year, oil hit $26 a barrel. Today it's $48.
Wow.
Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons why I know that. Having done business in the Middle East, knowing Aramco's got hundreds of trillions of barrels, knowing that when the king of Saudi Arabia passed away about a year and a half ago, and his brother, who's considered not bright as his brother, half-brother died, and who hates Americans, allegedly, and who is sick and tired of hearing about fracking, that we're going to end the frackers forever. And so there's no way see, OPEC is great, except there's no accountability. There's only 2 countries in the world that actually adhere to OPEC. Canada, 3 countries, Canada, the U.S., and the U.K. Everybody else cheats.
How so?
They produce as much oil as they want.
So what is OPEC has regulations on how much oil you can produce?
Correct.
And why do they have those regulations?
Because
to cap the market?
Correct. So they don't drive down the price of the market.
So now what they're doing with fracking is they're making oil in America so readily available that what they're doing in the Middle East is dropping the price down low so that the fracking's not worth doing.
Correct. And a barrel of oil at the wellhead from a fracked well, the cost is about $80 a barrel. To just get it there, not to get it in the pipeline, not to get it to the refineries, not to do any of that.
Right.
$80 a barrel. So if they keep oil between 40 and 60 for the next 100 years,
wow,
all the frackers are fucked.
Yeah, and how do you feel about fracking? Because I've heard mixed stories about fracking, or mixed reports and mixed opinions. Some people believe that it's a good way for us to be independent with our oil and to break off from this whole weird sort of crisis and this situation that we have with the Middle East. And other people feel like it's super dangerous. And what we're doing is we're potentially poisoning water supplies. We're creating earthquakes in some place that's as stable as Oklahoma, which was like seismically, it was a non-entity, like never had any issues with earthquakes. Now they have tons of earthquakes, and they're just constantly drilling into the ground. And who knows what are the consequences of that?
Both of those theories are correct. Both of the theories. But I'm not a save the world kind of guy.
What are you? You're a slash and burn type of guy?
No, not slash and burn, but I believe that if there is a higher power, he helps those who help themselves. So, I mean...
wow, that's convenient to think like that, though, isn't it?
Well, I think it is. That's why I think that way. It's convenient.
But if he helps those that help themselves, wouldn't he not help people who would poison the water supply?
Well, I mean, that's an exaggeration. It's not poisoning the water supply like the protesters are saying. But by the same token, why frack when, if my theory is correct about Saudi Arabia having hundreds of trillions, and they're never going to allow the fracked oil to come to market. Why do it?
Right. If they're never going to allow the fracked oil to come to market.
Okay.
So the fracked oil, what are they doing with it right now?
Well, right now, fracking is down like 70 or 80%.
It is?
Yes, it is.
And why is it down? Because of the price of oil?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
it has nothing to do with environmental concerns.
No, I mean, it's just like Obama didn't want the pipeline
Right.
because of environmental
The
concerns.
Dakota Access Pipeline,
Correct,
but it all started during his watch.
Yeah, I understand that, but now Trump has says that you can have the pipeline because he's looked at the same studies that I've looked at, and it's all online on Google, is that there is this much United States, and the environmental things that may be hurting is this much of the United States.
So you're talking, you spread your arms up very wide for people listening.
Okay.
And then when you said about environmental concerns, you put it very small.
Correct.
But isn't it something that if we could avoid those very small environmental disasters, they're going to impact that area for thousands of years.
Correct.
I mean, it's a significant issue.
Yeah,
right?
well, sure it is. But I mean, there's more than there's the one side of an argument, the other side of the argument, and then somewhere in between is the truth. I mean, where the truth lies.
But do you think that's the only way for us to prosper is to put those areas in danger? I mean, if you say that there is a potentially there's a potential for an environmental disaster that could affect that area for thousands of years, take that risk for financial gain.
No, not for
no.
I'm not saying for financial gain.
It's not financial gain?
No, of course it's a financial gain. I was in the oil business for 20 years. That's allegedly where I made my fortune. But
Allegedly?
Allegedly, yeah.
Well, how'd you really
I've done
make
other
it?
things very successfully, but that's the one that they talk about. I turned $800 into $500 million in 8 years, and so forevermore I'm an oil man.
Right.
Okay, but I've created 50 billion since then. So I mean, what's more important, the 50 billion or the 500 million?
Right.
So
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But the fact is that politically, whoever gets in office, and right now we have Trump, and he's backed by the Senate and the Congress, etc. It has promised to be like an isolationist, more or less. He's not interested in the wars around, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's his position. And a majority of the electoral votes got him elected. Not the popular vote, but electoral votes. Okay, so but whether the United States of America is ruining parts of it, 500 years from now, that'll be ruined. Whilst important, it is not the overriding energy, pun intended, of what we should be thinking about. What we should be thinking about is doing away with war. Living happily, even I believe that, and I'm an aggressive guy, but that model hasn't worked.
Why is that?
Well, why were there still wars?
Well, I mean, when you talk about the Iraq War and you talk about the Afghanistan War, those are the longest wars we've engaged in the United States.
And we didn't have to be there.
Right.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But how are we going to keep people elected those people that put us there?
Right.
Just like the people elected Trump to put him there.
Well,
just like they elected Clinton to put him there.
Right.
And we're still in wars.
Right, but Clinton didn't do it. I mean, this was all post 9/11, and there was obviously some military actions that were involved when Clinton was in office. But when Bill Clinton was president, it was one of the most peaceful times in the history of this country. Wouldn't you agree?
He took out Haiti. He followed up on the Dan Peña plan to take out Haiti.
That was the Dan Peña plan?
With the CIA Dan Peña
trademark?
plan. Yes, well, I can coin it now.
But I mean, don't you think that in terms of like if you compare pre-Bush, when 9/11 happened, from then on, we've been in this perpetual state of war. But during the entire 8 years that Clinton was in office, although there were some military actions, it was one of the more peaceful times.
Yeah, there probably was. You're probably right, yeah.
Well, there wasn't as much worry as there is today. Like today, it seems like there's threats of terrorism. We're worried about North Korea, instability all around the globe.
I want you to hear something else for the first on your program.
Okay.
Who do you think killed the president's half-brother of North Korea?
Didn't they hire some people? They thought it was a prank?
Well, that's what the story is.
Oh, it was a different story?
Yeah. No,
The truth?
the North Koreans think that the South Koreans did it.
Right.
I think that the USA CIA did it.
Well, I thought the North Koreans thought that the brother did it, that Kim Jong-un did it to his
older
brother.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
because
I
the
think
brother
the
was
CIA
kind of
did
sneaky.
it to send a message to North Korea.
Really? What kind of message is that?
I mean, that don't fuck with us.
Oh, it seems like they could do a better job of sending that message.
Well, I mean, they killed him.
I guess, but who is he? He wasn't even in.
No,
in a
but I mean,
position
if
of
you
power.
can kill the half brother of the president, you can kill the president.
Well, that would probably be a better idea. But if they did do that, don't you think it would just create a vacuum, like the same thing that happened in
I don't
Libya
know.
when they killed Gaddafi?
I don't read enough books to know that.
I don't read any books on Libya, but I watched a lot of documentaries on that whole Gaddafi situation. That's a complete clusterfuck.
Well, I mean, the United States government has been doing that for 100 years,
Yeah.
where they back a government. It turns out to be a crooked government. So then they got to go take all the backing away from them, and then a void is created. And then the guys that come in,
Or worse.
yeah.
Like
yeah.
what's going on in Iraq right now.
Yeah, we've been doing that for a long, long
with
time.
ISIS. And I mean, but what's happening in Libya? Libya is basically a failed state. It's a scary, scary place right now. And if you talk to people that were there pre-Gaddafi or during Gaddafi's administration now, they're like, it's way safer than when Gaddafi was running things. Obviously, if you were an enemy of Gaddafi, it wasn't safe for you. He was a brutal dictator. But the business of running countries, especially running countries all around the world, is a horrible, horrible, messy business. You know, messy, brutal, evil business.
It's always underestimated. And one of my favorite sayings is never underestimate how wrong you can be. And and we always seem to underestimate it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to change. Is it
Do you
right?
think we're going to get better? I mean, we've gotten better over
We've
the last
gotten better.
100 years.
I mean, since caveman, since that chimpanzee that learned how to use a rock.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, we've gotten better.
Yeah.
I mean, but we've been around, getting better for 40,000 years, and the planet's been alive for 13.8 billion years.
But we've only had Google for like 20.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not such a proponent that Google's going to change the world, but
You don't think so?
no, well, not like the millennials think, or maybe I don't know.
My
what you-
generation, one of
yeah.
my Generation X, I guess. It's funny, that whole generation thing.
Yeah.
We get labels. I think there's a real possibility that information, and I think there's some battles going on right now with information where people are trying to figure out how it should affect things and what it should affect and what kind of an impact it's ultimately going to have in our culture. But I think it's having a massive impact, and I think it's hard for us
Google?
to I said Google, but Google meaning the ability to search things. You know, there's Bing and
well, I
there's,
mean,
there's the access to information through those
we're
portals.
inundated with instant information.
Yeah.
I mean, what took guys years to research for a PhD paper can be now researched in days
Yeah.
or weeks, or
Yeah.
if that.
Yeah, it's a magical time when it comes to that. And I feel like that, if anything, is going to change foreign countries quicker than any other kind of change. Because I feel like just having the access to the information that things are different in other parts of the world, that people are thinking differently than they ever thought before, that there's more understanding about people, that we have more in common than we do, than this idea that countries are against each other. The countries they're consisted of people that don't even know each other for the most part, and we're supposed to be against some other people that we don't know and some other part of the world.
Well, why is it then Tiananmen Square in Beijing, 30 whatever years ago it was, when we were in China not too long ago as a guest of the government, most kids don't even know that happened.
Yeah.
Because they're not allowed
Censorship.
to have Google. Okay. Same in Russia. Same in countries in South America. Now, getting back to why the oil hydrocarbons are so important, Russia's got an oil-driven economy now. A good many of the countries in South America have oil-driven economies now. Canada has an oil-driven economy now. The UK arguably has an oil-driven economy now vis-a-vis the North Sea. Okay. The U.S. doesn't really have an oil-driven economy, but it has a big, big part of what happens. Now, when you are making loans from financial institutions at $100, $120 oil with projections, because some dipshit MBA did a spreadsheet on them, to $200 oil, and you make loans, and now all those loans are underwater, pun intended for the offshore stuff.
So is that what happened? They made loans
Correct.
based on the prediction that it would continue to
Correct.
go up. So some sort of a universal growth or continual growth
Correct.
paradigm?
But anybody that's from the business like I was knew that was horseshit.
Why did they think that unlimited growth in oil was going to happen and it was going to get to $200 a barrel if guys like you thought it was horseshit?
Because a whole other generation has come up that didn't suffer the last oil decline. The last oil decline was the early 80s through the mid 80s, when oil went from $40 a barrel to $6 a barrel, and then went back up to $35 a barrel. all those guys are either dead, in jail, or retired. Okay? And now they got young guys who learned something in a book, went to good schools, know how to do spreadsheets, etc., but they don't have the experience. And we have tons and tons of information, but what we don't have running a lot of the companies is tons and tons of experience. We have a lot of dots, but we don't have the people that have connected the dots.
Now, to connect the dots to find out how much the Middle East actually has in barrels of oil, these trillions of barrels of oil, how would one do that?
Well,
and is this public information? Like what you're saying,
no,
most people don't know this.
No, they don't know.
How do you know it?
Well, because I was partners with the Kuwaiti government for 7 years. I used to be their fair-haired boy for investment.
Is that what they call you, a fair-haired boy?
Fair-haired boy, yeah.
What does that mean?
Fair-haired boy means that I was their favorite.
What a weird expression.
Yeah, fair-haired boy. Fair-haired, I don't have black hair.
Right.
Okay. I have blue eyes.
Right.
I'm fair in my complexion.
Got it.
Okay, that's what
I get it, but it's weird.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I think it's very surprising that Aramco is going to go public with the numbers, because it's been one of the great big secrets of all time in the energy business.
Do you think they're going public with the numbers to discourage further fracking?
Correct.
So they're going to say, look, we would rather have 100% of this thing at half the price.
Correct.
Than lose it all.
Correct. And the most of the alternative energy deals in the United States and the UK are funded by grants, government programs that fail. I mean, they don't make any money. But when you stop doing that, the average cost for a barrel of oil, not fracking, in this country is about $45-50 a barrel. We're right at the break even to bring it up to the wellhead now. Okay. In the Middle East, taking all of them into account, it's about $3.
$3 a barrel.
Yeah, a couple of the countries less than $1.
Whoa! How the fuck can they do that?
Because the oil is
right there,
here. And they found oil. They were living in tents as Bedouins, and they were looking for water, because they'd be dead now if they hadn't found water 100 years ago. They'd all be dead. But they didn't need the water because they got the oil. Then they paid to to make the water drinkable.
Desalinate.
Correct. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
So that's an amazing thing. So why is Exxon bothering to drill in the Gulf Coast?
Because hope springs eternal.
So they want to plan for the future.
Correct. I drilled in the Gulf Coast when I was running a big oil company, and there's two parts of the Gulf Coast. There's the shelf, which is 600 feet deep, and then there's beyond the shelf, which is like 10,000 feet deep, and that's big money to drill those test wells. And the big guys like Exxon are looking for elephants. They're looking for the big reserves. Smaller independents like I was looking for the smaller reserves.
Now, when Exxon goes and looks for the big reserves, what kind of equipment do they use to decide where the oil is?
Well, an offshore drilling rig will cost between in the shallow 25 to 40 million, and in the deep 75 to 250 million for just the rig, the thing.
Right. So how do they know where the oil is?
Oh, they have geologists, which are like, this is a personal point of view, geologists, geophysicists.
Like psychics?
Yeah, exactly. You're better off with a psychic.
So they basically know there's a shitload of oil out there. So
somewhere.
They just drill in. Now, what is oil? Explain to me what is oil. I read a book a long time ago that confused the fuck out of me. It was called Black Gold Stranglehold. I don't know if you ever heard about it.
I've heard of it. I never read it.
It was a book that was saying that oil is not fossil fuels, and then it's not what people think it is, but is actually a renewable process that the earth creates this oil, and that wells go dry, and then if you leave them alone for a while, they build up with oil again.
No, well, that's a theory, but nobody's ever left the well alone long enough to find out if that's true or not.
So
they're talking about hundreds or thousands of years. They're not talking about 40 years.
Right. Yeah. So no, but wells. Oh, so this guy. It seemed like a wacky book. It was one of those books I was reading. Have you ever read The Holographic Universe?
No.
It's another book. Like halfway into the book, I'm like, what the fuck am I reading? This is a goofy ass book. It's just too much goofiness in it. But that Black Gold Stranglehold, I wanted to talk to a real oil man about this. So oil is created by what? Things dying and deteriorating?
Correct. From 40, 50, 100 million years ago. And they sit under the ground and they form hydrocarbons. Two different kind of hydrocarbons. Either it's like gas and oil. And When it comes up, it comes up one pipe and there's a separator. Sometimes you just have a pure oil well. Sometimes you have just a pure gas well. But mostly you have a mix. So there's a separator. It's a unit that is a engineer's wet dream at the top that separates all this. Then it's put into a pipeline and taken to a refinery, or it's put into a truck and taken to a refinery. And some of the distillate, the actual oil that's depending on the gravity, can go straight into a car. I mean, that's how pure it is. Yeah, and doesn't have to be refined. Of course, the refiners don't like those kind of wells because then they.
So what is it when you don't have to refine it?
I mean, it has been sat under the ground. The
For
thicker
so
the
long?
oil, the less time it's been under the ground. So if you've got oil that's been there 40 million years, it will look like kerosene. If you've got oil that's only been there 10 million years, it'll look black and gunky.
Oh, that's fascinating. Now, we used to call it dead dinosaurs, but it's not really animal matter as much as it is plant matter. Is that true?
Plant, yeah.
Mostly plant matter? Yeah. So it's just deteriorating leaves and trees and things along those lines, and then it slowly but surely over millions of years becomes oil. What a weird thing to power our world on.
Well, I mean, it's been around a long time. But if we really wanted electric batteries, we've had those 40 years longer than we've had gasoline cars.
What are your feelings on solar?
Solar, you probably don't know this, but for every square foot on the Earth, the sun, natural sun, with nothing advancing the sun's light, gives between 10 and 13,000 times more energy than the planet needs. 10 to 13,000 for every square foot just from the sun.
Whoa, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me sort that out. So what you mean is if you put solar panels on every square foot, you'd have 10 to 13 times more than the planet needs.
Yes,
right?
Einstein, correct.
Right. But you wouldn't really put solar panels over the whole planet. So in order to be able to power a city, what would you have to do?
Well, I mean, a city like, let's say, the Valley.
How dare you call me Einstein, by the way?
Okay. The Valley. The Valley.
Right.
Okay, you'd need solar panels that would cover from downtown Los Angeles to San Diego.
Jesus Christ. And that's under current solar technologies.
And it's gotten much less expensive to do that.
Right.
Because then you got to sell the stuff into the grid. The grid meaning the power thing, like what's the power thing up here? Whatever the power company, electric company is. So you sell into the grid, and they will tell you when the government was giving subsidies, they were paying like 18 to 20 cents per kilowatt. Now they're paying 2 to 3 cents. So people invested. Schmucks, banks lend out schmucks lend out hundreds of billions of dollars to these solar guys because at the 13 to 18 cents a megawatt, and then supply. Then we had too much supply because everybody's doing it, and drove down the price. And so now these poor bastards that started these solar deals 15, 20 years ago can't make any money, so they can't pay off their debt. The guys that benefit the most from solar are the farmers that own the land that lease to the solar companies.
So it's another one of those unlimited growth things where they felt like it was 10 cents back then per kilowatt, and it's eventually going to be 20 and 30. They thought it was going to go up, and instead it went down. And why did it go down?
Because oversupply. Because everybody gets on a good thing, and then they make it bad.
But when you say you sell it back to the grid, there's also ways to do it to be off the grid, right?
Correct.
You'd have a different system.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
There are. And a lot of, very bright guy put together tax incentive deals. In Britain, they call them schemes. That took advantage of the system. Right now in Germany, for example, Germany has 20, 25-year contracts, and the government wasn't any smarter. They gave you a 25-year contract at a guarantee 11 cents. Okay? Now, into the grid, it's only 3 cents.
Right.
So they've got to pay you off the difference between 3 and 11.
Right.
And
so the contract's up, and then once it's up, everybody's screwed.
Everybody's screwed.
Wow. Now, do you think that it's a viable way to power a city?
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think it's a mix. You need a mix.
Really?
Not just solar.
Under current technological standards.
Solar, wind,
Wind, yeah.
and hydrocarbons.
Yeah, we were in somewhere filming something for Fear Factor once, and they had one of those windmill farms. It was the craziest thing ever. It was like a bunch of robots that were up on this hill.
Correct.
That were spinning around, and I was like, they're getting electricity from these wind robots. Like, how fucking weird is this?
And each one of those deals costs, roughly speaking, $1 million.
Wow.
Each one. And the technology has come a long, long way in the 30 or 40 years that they've had those wind deals.
Yeah.
But supposedly the wind currents don't change.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong. They do change.
Uh-oh.
Okay? And so you've built 100 of these windmills facing a certain way.
Right.
Okay? And then the wind changes for whatever reason. Now, another thing you're going to hear first. In 2011, my wife and I had our vows renewed at the South Pole, magnetic South Pole. We went to be married there. And they have a huge $500 million scientific research lab, most of which is paid for by the United States government. So we're down there and we're talking to all the goofball scientists running around in shorts, T-shirts, and flip-flops, and it's 40 below zero. Okay, because the sun never goes down. This was December. And so they're giving us a presentation, and they're bringing out these cores of ice. And they get to the second or third core, and then he says, this core is 55,000 years old. And, of course, how do you know that? Anyway, they explained. And he said, 13,000 years ago, this was the temperature. 14,000 and 55,000 years ago, it was 2 degrees warmer Celsius than it is today. And then you go, wait, stop. 55,000 years ago, it was 2 degrees warmer than it is today.
Right.
And I said, what about global warming? Simultaneously, all 10 scientists started laughing. All 10 PhDs from MIT, Caltech, Stanford started laughing.
Why'd they laugh?
Because global warming is a joke.
How's global warming a joke?
I'm just telling you what they said. It was warmer 2 degrees Celsius 55,000 years ago.
55,000 years ago. Well, if you go back 65 million years ago, it was considerably warmer then.
I understand that, but what they were saying is that it's cyclical.
Right,
it's
it
going to get colder
is,
again.
But I don't think that's the argument. The argument is whether or not we're contributing to this cyclical.
I'm sure we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if we wait 10,000 years, there won't be any global warming.
It'll go back to cold.
Correct. And the people, your descendants, my descendants, if they're around 10,000 years from now, will read about that. Who are those guys that believed in global warming?
So you think that people are being hysterical about a natural cycle that we probably are, we're probably helping it along?
We're helping it along, but it's a natural cycle.
But it's going to come back around anyway.
Correct. Another point. If global warming were for real, I mean, real, it's going to happen.
Well, it is real.
No. I
right?
mean, it's going to happen next 20, 30 years.
Okay.
Let's say. Florida, most of Central America, a whole bunch of the world is going to be gone because it'll be underwater.
Right.
Depending on, the most severe, it's 30 meters of water, that's 100 feet. The less severe is 10 meters of water, 30 feet. Okay. If that were the case and you were building condominiums in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, there should be a disclaimer in the prospectus. There should be a disclaimer. The next big wave of class action lawsuits, if global warming happens in the next 20 to 50 years, is going to be the disclaimers that were not written in the investment prospecti for condominiums, buildings, everywhere. Manhattan's gone. London's gone.
Well, that's only under severe forecast, right? Severe forecast of
the best
global
forecast
warming.
is it's going to be 10 meters, which is 30 feet.
That's the best forecast?
That's the best forecast.
And that's over how many years?
50.
So you don't think that's going to happen?
I'm not likely to be here 50 years from now, so I'm not
you're
that
looking
concerned.
pretty good, dude, if they keep replacing shit.
Yeah, well, I'm
pretty good.
My goal is 120.
What are you at right now?
70. I'll be 72 in a few weeks.
You look great.
Yeah, thank you.
Got a lot of pep to you.
Yeah.
So what?
But I'm happy because I'm enjoying doing what I do. Do you realize 87%, Gallup poll came out last year and said 87% of the people on the planet are unhappy with what their life is all about? Unhappy. And 10% in addition to that, 87 to 97, hate what they do.
Oof.
So that leaves 3% of the planet enjoy what they do.
You're one of 3%.
Fuck, I'm one of the 100 millionth of a percent. I'm so happy I don't know whether to shit or go blind.
Well, you shouldn't do the second part. Everybody should
blind or
shit.
shit?
Yeah, don't go blind.
No,
I don't
well,
think that makes you happier.
Well,
Like sometimes you have to take a
but
shit.
they're gonna figure out how to give me new eyes.
They are, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to figure out how to give you new eyes, or do you think they're going to figure out how to shoot some stem cells in your eyes and rejuvenate them?
Well, I want to hear after the program about the stem cells in Vegas.
Yeah, they've got a lot of crazy shit going on. They're doing discs now. They are just starting. Talked to Dr. Davidson from the UFC, and they're beginning trials. I think they were going to do it this Monday, so past Monday, a couple of days ago, where they're going to shoot stem cells directly into discs of people with degenerative disc disease, where their discs are shrinking because of compression of the spine and just overall life and wearing down. They're going to be able to regenerate disc tissue. Yeah.
Well, what's the story about? I read a couple of days ago, a transgender guy broke the eye socket of a girl in an MMA fight.
I don't know about that. Is that a recent fight?
Yeah, I mean, just last 48 hours.
I don't know about that.
Okay, and they're complaining because it's not really a girl, it's a guy.
Yeah.
And he was just overpowered, and he just... No, I've never heard of a broken eye socket in one of those
broken eye
fights.
sockets are really common.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Broken eye sockets, broken orbitals, very, very common. If you get punched or kicked or elbowed really hard in the eyeball, which sounds horrible to people, but you get a blowout fracture where you actually blow out the bone in the back of the eyeball. So they have to literally take your eye out, and they have to go behind it, repair. Usually, sometimes they have to put like a little plate or something that puts the bone back together in the back of your eye, put your eye back in. And sometimes when guys do get those kind of orbital fractures, they have these weird eyes, like the one eye that like pokes forward more than the other eye.
Jesus.
It looks weird. Yeah, very, very dangerous sport. Very dangerous sport. It's just, obviously, it's a combat sport.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
goal
they're
is
trying
to
to,
smash each other. Yeah, I've been pretty vocal about, there was a pretty famous case of a guy who had been a guy for 30 years, became a woman for 2 years, went transgender, whatever you want to call it, and started fighting MMA and wasn't telling these women that she used to be a man for 30 fucking years. And I was like, well, that's crazy. Like, if you tell people and they still want to fight, that's fine. I think you should be able to do whatever you want to do, just like I think you should be able to ride a bull. I support your right to ride a bull. You want to ride a bull? I'm not telling you should shouldn't do it, because who the fuck am I to tell you they shouldn't jump out of buildings and skydive, or jump out of planes rather, or jump off cliffs with one of those wingsuits like my friend Andy does. You should be able to do whatever you want to do, as long as you're informed. But this idea that it's not something that you need to tell the other person about because now you're a woman, I say that's bullshit. You're biologically a man. You were born a man. You have an XY chromosome. You have all sorts of mechanical advantages. You have a different bone structure. It's not the fucking same. And if these people want to continue this crazy narrative that once you decide that you identify with being a woman, you should be able to compete as a woman, it's fucking crazy. I mean, I'm sure you saw what happened with that kid in high school. There was a kid in high school.
Wrestler.
Yeah, she wanted to be a boy. And so they started giving her testosterone treatments, but she still has to compete as a girl in wrestling while she's transitioning to being a boy. So they're giving her these testosterone treatments, and she's just mauling these girls.
Yeah.
It's just not fair.
What happened to the girl?
And it's not her fault, by the way. That kid, it's the people that live there want her to compete as a girl. And if that's the case, you shouldn't allow her to be competing while she's taking testosterone. It's real simple. And if she wants to compete as a boy, let her compete as a boy, or let him compete as a boy.
In your opinion, what happened to the young girl that was
Ronda Rousey?
Yes, the Olympian girl that all of a sudden went from the penthouse to the shithouse.
A lot of things. It's a long
She was
story.
great. I mean, I was a big follower of her.
Amazing judo practitioner, and dominant like no one else ever in women's MMA up to that point, in the UFC at least. But there was some holes in her approach that were exposed by Holly Holm, the woman who knocked her out, the girl who head kicked her.
Yeah.
Holly had the perfect style to deal with Ronda's style. She's really strong, she's fast, she's an amazing athlete, and she is an outstanding striker. And so Ronda's thing was to charge at you like a fucking bull. And Holly just played the matador brilliantly, caught her, lit her up while she was coming in, and then eventually head kicked her and stopped her. Once you get knocked out like that, first of all, she was very, very confident while she was the champion. And some people would say arrogant. And because of that, there's all these people that are waiting for you to fall. There's a lot of people out there that don't have much confidence. And when they see someone who's out there who's got a lot of confidence, it's very compelling. Like a Floyd Mayweather or like a Conor McGregor, their confidence is incredibly compelling. Like you want to be near them. But those people when that person loses, they're the first ones to attack. They're like, yeah, you fucking loser. I knew you were a loser. Like, you go to Ronda Rousey's Instagram page and read the comments under her pictures. It's ruthless. Some fucking assholes. Just assholes. And I guarantee you, all those people are severely unaccomplished or really young. Either young kids that don't understand what they're doing, they just have this opportunity to be able to talk shit, or they're a bunch of fucking losers, and they're finding this opportunity to shit on someone who was this incredible, bright, shining star that fizzled out. So she lost to Holly Holm, and then she came back in a far worse matchup against Amanda Nunes. And I thought Nunes, before Holly Holm beat her, I thought Nunes was the most dangerous matchup for her, because Amanda Nunes is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and she has heavy, heavy hands. She's a dangerous striker. And I was like, Ronda's going to have to close the distance or to grab her and take her to the ground. And when she does, it's no fucking picnic, because Amanda Nunes is nasty on the ground. And then getting close to her, she's got knockout power with her hands. I'm like, this is a terrible, terrible matchup. And it turned out to be right, because she got knocked out in 48 seconds in the rematch. But what she should have done is revamp her camp or not fight. Revamp, go to one of the masters. There's a few masters of mixed martial arts in this world. There's Faraz Zahabi and Matt Hume and Duke Rufus. There's a few of these striking mixed martial arts masters. And you have to go to them. You have to go to them, and you have to, like, submit yourself and say, look, let's fix this. Let's fix whatever I'm doing, and let's see if we can take this to the next level, because the sport evolved, and the sport passed her by. Like, she was at the very top, but if you build it, it's like that Field of Dreams movie. You build it, they will come. And when she built the women's bantamweight division and became this dominant force and stopped all these people and looked invincible, all those women were coming up below her, and they were getting better, and they were evolving, and they were like the rest of MMA. They were reaching this incredibly high level, whereas the women's MMA movement in the early days, 3-4 years ago, if you watched women's MMA, the skill level was nowhere near commensurate with the men's skill level. Like, the men's skill level at 3-4 years ago, they're better today, but only a little bit better. But the women are way better today than they were, because it's a new thing. It's like 1997 for mixed martial arts for men. That's what like 3 or 4 years ago was. But now the women have essentially pretty much caught up or close to it. There's very high level striking, very high level submissions, very high level fluid overall mixed martial arts games that you're seeing in the women's division. And Ronda, in a lot of ways, as spectacular as she was, had a very limited approach. She didn't kick. She punched, but she wasn't necessarily like the most brutal knockout puncher, and she wasn't necessarily the most skillful boxer. She didn't really have a tremendous amount of experience. What she had was incredible athleticism, a world-class mindset. She was a world-class athlete. She's a former Olympian, and outstanding judo. Her judo and her arm bars are amongst the best in the world. Like, her transitions, the way she attacks and attacks and attacks and set things up. She's phenomenally talented and really accomplished in judo. But when you want to be a world mixed martial arts champion at the highest level of the game, now you have to be great at everything. And there's people like Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, who I think is the best fighter in the world. Yeah. He's amazing. Yeah. That guy's great at everything, and that's why he's the best, because you don't know what the fuck he's going to do. You don't know if he's going to kick you or knee you or take you down or strangle you or elbow you. He's just got so many options, and he's coming at you from all different directions, and he never gets tired. He's the total full package. We don't have a Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson in women's MMA yet, but it's coming. It's coming. And Ronda's not that. Ronda's more like maybe like a Chuck Liddell or one of the early pioneers of men's MMA. Super talented, really fun to watch, but perhaps limited in their approach.
Yeah, I used to enjoy. Well, I enjoy Mighty Mouse. Now that you mentioned him,
he's incredible. Yeah. He's incredible. And there's so many of them now. I mean, it's just, this sport is just exploding. It's exploding with talent.
Has it changed since they sold?
Well, it has a little bit. It's trying to refine itself, I think. But the guys who sold it, or the guys who bought it rather, they're savvy, intelligent dudes who are trying to do it their way. And there's going to be some bumps along the way. They've made a lot of changes, and they're trying to do some things differently. And some of the things I agree with. Like, now I have a 3-man booth. Like, it's me and a fighter, and then the play-by-play commentator, which we've done a couple of times. So I think is really good. I like it. And they've got a lot of matchups that have fallen through, unfortunately, because of weight cut issues and a bunch of other stuff. So it's a tough business, man. I wouldn't want to be a promoter. It's what I do is easy. I just show up and things are happening. I talk about the things that are happening. It's not a lot I don't have to do a lot of work to get there. I just kind of get there and then I watch and I talk about the fights. The promoting angle of it is just unbelievably brutal. You have to rely on so many people to do their job, so many people to have their shit together. You got to rely on these crazy, impulsive maniacs known as MMA fighters to get their weight in order and to have their camp go through without severely injuring themselves, and to do things smartly and intelligently and conservatively so that they can show up for the dance and be able to perform at their best. You're asking a lot of different people, and most of them come through. Most fighters are incredibly professional, but some of them don't, like that Khabib Nurmagomedov Tony Ferguson fight that fell through a couple weeks ago or last week. Horrible, just devastating that we were all ready for that fight, and then in the day of the fight, he can't make the day of the weigh-ins. Rather, he can't make the weight, and they sent him to the hospital. So those kind of things do happen. These guys that are running it now, the WME guys, they're smart as hell. So we'll just see. They'll figure it out. That's what I think. I think it'll take a little while. There'll be a little bit of trial and error. It's just understandable. I mean, they spent $4 billion on the UFC. They're gonna want to run it their way. I get that. It's an incredible investment. I don't know how the fuck they're gonna make that money back. You're a smart financial guy. How the hell do they make that money back?
They won't.
Whoa, Jesus, Dan Peña. Why did you do that?
It's not likely.
No?
The way I would do it is I would take it public.
Oh, is that how you make your money back?
You heard it here first on Joe's show. Take it public.
And if they take it public?
They can make 50% on their money in a week. I mean, a week after they take it public, because the average investor pays up too much. They pay up high multiples. And the difference between a non-liquid investment and a liquid investment, the multiples are normally 50 to 100% higher.
You just lost me talking Chinese.
Okay. If let's just say they bought it at 20 times earnings.
Okay.
Okay. $4 billion equated to 20 times earnings.
Right. So that means 20 times per annual earnings?
Yeah,
okay.
That's correct. So they take it public, and the investment public, the schmucks that buy stocks on the New York Stock Exchange, will give you 40 times.
They will?
Yes.
Huh. Why don't they do that then?
Well,
what's the problem with taking things public?
Well, they lose control. And it depends on how much of the stock are they going to sell.
Right.
Are they going to sell 10%? They're certainly not going to sell 50.1% because then they lose total control.
Right.
But then they also have to adhere to the SEC, Security Exchange Commission. There's rules. And they have to have audited statements every 90 days. And if they gave you too much money for expenses and it's down there as a footnote, they come and investigate. Why'd you give Rogan that? Why'd you do that?
Oh, I see.
And most people don't want to go public because of that. I went public because I could see that I was going to make 1,000 times my money. I mean, or not even 100,000 times my money. So it was a no-brainer.
You made 100,000 times your money by going public?
Well, it's actually better than that.
Jesus.
I grew.
Jamie, we need to take this podcast public.
I grew at 67,000% a year.
What the fuck does that even mean? How is that even possible?
67. My total growth on my original investment was 55 million%.
Jesus Christ. That's a lot of money, Dan.
And there hasn't been Facebook nor anybody even close. But unfortunately for me, because it was 25 years ago, I was at a low base. My base was only 500,000, or 500 million. But now, I mean,
what does that mean by your base?
In other words, I grew the company from $800
right
to 500 million.
Right.
Okay. So, but my initial base was call it $1,000.
Okay.
Okay. And my exit base was 500 million.
Okay.
$500 million. And, of course, I had a lot of shareholders. It wasn't just me. But now the company grew. If you take $800 and you figure out you do a spreadsheet on the growth per year, it's 67,000%. And if you do the total growth, it's 55 million%. 55 million%.
Now, if you're an MMA fan, and if you were going to give advice to the people that own the UFC, what would you tell them? Oh yeah, Alpha Brain. Alpha. What would you give them? What advice would you say?
I'd hire somebody like Goldman Sachs. I'd hire more than one. I'd say Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan or somebody like that, or Credit Suisse, to look at how to make their investment liquid. liquid, because now it's frozen like a stiff dick. I mean, it's not going anyplace.
So what does that mean? Like, how do you make it liquid?
Liquid, okay. Let's just say we're going to take this podcast public.
Okay, let's do it. Let's get crazy.
Okay, let's get crazy. Now, let's just say that right now you make, let's throw out numbers, $1 million a year off your podcast, and you have no other shareholders. Okay, just you. Okay. Now, you want to take it public, and you want to take it public on one of the secondary or tertiary exchanges, because this wouldn't be big enough to take on the New York Stock Exchange. And you want to sell shares in your baby for $1,000 a share. Okay.
How many shares does one have?
Well, as many as you want. If you want.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can make 100 million shares at $1,000 a share?
Yeah, but you couldn't equate that much value, but you could do 1,000 shares at $1,000 a share.
Okay.
Okay. And so you sell 20% off to the public. So 20% of those shares are, and I mean, you got millions of people to follow you. I mean, that would be a slam dunk. I mean, it would be a no-brainer. It'd be a no-brainer.
But then a bunch of people would be telling me who to get
as long as you got to keep control. Fuck you.
Control.
You know,
they would try to get that power, though.
Yeah, well, they would. And but as long as you held, or your group, or your consortium, or you and your buddies held more than 50%, they could never take control.
Right. But it seems like that's where hostile takeovers come from, right?
Correct.
Yeah, people gather up. Yeah. Oh, you got excited there.
Yeah, I'm getting excited myself just thinking about it. Yeah.
Hostile takeovers. That's like the
then
ultimate
you could just
chess
say,
move.
okay, well, we'll meet in the cage. You can put your best guy up, I'll put my best guy, and then we'll settle it that way. Just like they do in the old days. You know, instead of the two armies going to war, the best knight from this guy and the best knight from this guy.
Right. They duke it out.
And then who would you pick to defend your honor?
My honor?
Yeah, in the cage. I mean, if the other side had a guy, who would you pick?
It's a good question. Are we doing weight classes?
No. Anything goes.
This is a heavyweight named Francis Ngannou. I think I might put my money on that guy.
Yeah?
Terrifying. Young heavyweight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, who would they pick?
Knocks people dead. Who cares? Let them pick whoever the fuck they want. I got Francis.
I used to be a fan of Lesnar. I liked him.
He was scary.
Yeah.
He was scary. If Brock Lesnar got into MMA when he was young, if somebody grabbed him like right out of college and really trained him properly, better yet, right out of high school, and trained him properly, just an unbelievable freak athlete. A freak athlete.
I remember in the heavyweight match, I forget who was fought, where he had beaten up Lesnar pretty bad, but Lesnar still won the fight. The guy with the big hands.
Shane Carwin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shane Carwin beat the shit out of him in the first round, but he gassed out. And then Brock survived and strangled him in the second.
Yeah.
Brock's a tough guy. And, you know, he just was a guy who got into MMA very late in life and wasn't a natural striker and really didn't have the natural striking capability. Not when I say natural, I mean like fluid, really effortless striking that you get when you've been doing it for years and years and years. That's one of the hardest things to learn as guys get older, when they're like in their 30s and they're learning how to strike. Learning how to strike against someone who's really seasoned and good, there's just going to be these openings, and it just takes a few shots. 1, 2, 3, get in, and all of a sudden you're diminished, and the leg kick, and then the fucking shot to the body, and you're hurt. And then, boom, you saw what happened when he fought Cain Velasquez. Cain just overwhelmed him. He was just so much better with striking, and really great at wrestling as well. So Cain was able to get back up off his feet when Brock took him down, and then just Brock could not handle the onslaught that Cain was putting on him on the feet. Just wasn't prepared for it correctly. You need years and years and years of striking training, and you need to spar lightly, and you need to develop fluidity in your movements. You need to have efficient striking movements.
Now, what's it called, the pretend wrestling league?
Pro wrestling, WWE.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what's the guy's name? The founder.
Vince McMahon.
Okay, McMahon, and his wife is now in the cabinet for Trump. If she got approved.
Hilarious.
Okay, yes, it probably is hilarious. But they got rich when they went public.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, they went public.
They went public with the WWE.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I was offered for $50,000 a point when they first got started. A bunch of buddies of mine in Connecticut were riding in a limo, and they showed me a demo tape. And they says, we can get into this. We can buy up to 10% for $50,000 a point. They need money. I said, bullshit. Who's going to watch that shit?
Nah.
Yeah.
I feel it the same way. My friend Tony was at, I don't know what they call it, Monday Night Raw. Is that what it was? At the Staples Center. And he was making videos while he was in the audience. And I was like, you got to be fucking shitting me. There's 20,000 people in this place. It's crazy. The numbers are insane. People love that stuff. They love it. They were going nuts. I can't believe it. They just, I don't understand it.
Yeah, but I mean that's he got liquid by going public.
How many people do you think that pay $3,000 a month to that guy wind up going to pro wrestling? And are they the same people?
Probably the $3,000.
Yeah, probably the same people. That's probably like 100% of them are pro wrestling fans.
Yeah. Now, does everybody know pro wrestling's not for real?
No, there's some people with head injuries out there that still think it's real. There's a few people that fell off the back of a motorcycle. I can't believe he won. I thought Brock was number 1. This is insane.
I like when they come down the that
runway.
ramp and the fire and this and that, and then when they get, they have to be good athletes because when they bounce their heads on some of those things, hit them with chairs.
They're definitely good athletes.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
those guys are outstanding athletes, and it's a fucking really hard way to make a living. I mean, whatever the fuck you want about it being choreographed. They're still picking each other up and slamming each other on the ground and hitting each other. And
that's got to hurt after a few weeks, few months, few years.
Not only that, those guys are on the road, 200 plus days a year doing that. So it is a absolutely brutal business. It's a hard way to make a living, and they are tough guys. So they might not be really competing like an MMA fighter is, but there's no doubt about it. They have my respect. Those guys are tough. It's a tough way to make a living. They are earning their money. And I think they're doing it in a way where most people don't even see them earn their money. I mean, they're out in these arenas, they're playing this state and that state, and they're going on the road, and they're slamming each other and throwing each other into the turnbuckle and elbowing each other in the face. It's fucking hard, man. That is a hard way to make a living. And a giant percentage of those guys wind up having problems with pain pills, severe pain in their body, always constantly, back injuries, knee injuries, neck injuries, elbow injuries. I mean, it's just, it's a fucking brutal way to get paid.
Yeah. Now, are the MMA guys getting paid big money now?
The best of the best are. The guys like Conor McGregor and a lot of the people that fight Conor McGregor, they're making millions. Ronda Rousey, she's making millions. It's just it's taken a while for the people that are not known very well to be able to make that kind of money. They're not really, it's hard for the average journeyman fighter to not just pay their bills, but to put money away as well. It's just. But it's like that in boxing, too. This is what people don't understand. Boxing, people say, well, Floyd Mayweather made $40 million for that fight. Maybe he did. But Floyd Mayweather is one. There's one Floyd Mayweather. Gennady Golovkin can't sell 200,000 pay-per-view buys. And he's one of the best fighters in the world today. Vasily Lomachenko, same thing. One of the best fighters in the world today. He's not making the kind of money that Conor McGregor's making. So what boxing is like you see these very big marquee names, these big famous guys who are making good money, and they make more money than the best UFC guys. Like Manny Pacquiao has made more money than the best UFC guys, but Conor McGregor's nipping at their heels right now.
Yeah, Manny used to have a house right around the corner from me. I lived 8 years in Manila, 1 year in China, 3 years.
You lived in Manila?
Yeah.
Wow, what is that like?
If you got money, it's terrific.
Yeah? Is it dangerous?
Yeah, my wife had 6 bodyguards.
Jesus Christ, 6?
6, and one of them used to be the bodyguard of the president. And all I want when
Why'd you live there? Why were you living there?
I had a thriving business. I still have the thriving business. We don't live there anymore.
Do you play pool?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
I knew you did. I knew. Because if you live in Manila, you got to play some pool.
Yeah. And but we lived a year in China, 8 years there, 3 years in India. And but when I was interviewing bodyguards, I just want to know, have you got any trigger time? I don't want you just looking pretty. I mean, have you ever pulled the fucking trigger?
Right.
So all of my wife's bodyguards had pulled triggers before, because you could get these guys. I read the same with CIA or the Secret Service. I mean, have you done anything?
Well, that's it. That is an important thing, and it's some would consider maybe like there's some people that are more sensitive that would say, well, that's a distasteful thing to even bring up. Like, why is there honor in shooting people? Why is there honor in trigger time? But I think what you were trying to figure out when you went into this big game hunting with handguns thing, whether or not you would pussy out when the moment was there, is because you knew that it's a significant challenge when your life is legitimately on the line.
People act different when they think they're going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, they just do.
They just do. And you find out who you really are versus who you're pretending you are.
Absolutely, Yeah. And I know a lot of brave guys that have pissed their pants.
Of course.
Yeah. Shit themselves.
Yeah.
But they did what was necessary.
Right.
But that moment of truth,
Well, that's the old saying that a great man and a weak man have the same fear. Just one responds to it in a different way.
Yeah. I raise my kids. It's not what happens to you in life. It's how you react to what happens to you in life.
Yeah.
And the millennial kids are
Pussies.
weenies. They're weenies.
Why saying weenies?
I call them vagina brains.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why is that?
They want to get laid. They don't know how, though.
But isn't a vagina a good thing?
Yeah,
Why would you say a vagina brain?
Not if you got one as a brain. Do you realize
that's a good
jellyfish lasted 350 million years without a brain?
Yeah, but they don't have Google. You can't find them on Snapchat. Like, who gives a fuck about jellyfish?
Yeah.
They sting you. They're assholes.
Yeah.
What are they? You can't even eat them. Fuck,
No, you can't.
You can't even eat jellyfish.
No.
Fucking useless. What do they do?
Pardon?
What do they do? What good is jellyfish?
They just
like,
float
they all
around
die.
and they sting other fish to kill them.
Assholes.
Yeah, and they fuck with you when you're at the beach.
Yeah, and there's some weird fucking super ancient life form.
Correct.
That we really
350
moved
million
past.
years.
We've moved past you people.
Well, I mean, hopefully we've moved past.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but they know global warming's a joke too.
The jellyfish do?
Yeah.
Oh. So well, this is a thing. I've had this conversation with people before because, if you have anybody on a podcast that is saying anything controversial like you're saying about global warming, people go, oh my God, can't believe you had a climate change denier on your show. But you're not a climate change denier.
No.
What you're saying is that it's an exaggerated effect that human beings have had, and regardless of whether or not we had that effect at all, if you look at like the end of the Ice Age, you look at all these different monumental changes in the temperature of the United States versus the temperature of the world, globally, it's constantly changing.
Yeah, 55,000 years ago at the South Pole, magnetic South Pole, it was 2 degrees Celsius warmer. And my wife and I have also been to the magnetic North Pole. We were married there as well. We're bipolar. We were married both at the South and...
Why do you get married in weird spots? For fun?
Yeah, for fun.
'Cause it's just crazy?
My wife and I have renewed our vows 6 times.
Jesus Christ. You must really love that lady.
Yeah, well, I do. And but the North Pole is... they all look pretty much the same, but most people don't realize the South Pole's on a mountain. So you're at altitude. You're at between 10 and 14,000 feet.
What country is the South Pole in?
Antarctica.
So Antarctica is the South Pole.
Is a mountain.
And what's the North Pole?
No, North Pole is just moving ice.
Just moving ice. So there's no actual land mass?
No,
so you're just on the ice?
And only 3 to 6 weeks a year can you actually have a facility to be able to land a chopper and have a ceremony at the North Pole.
Is that a normal thing where people get a ceremony on the North Pole?
No. Sally and I are, right now the Guinness Book of Records is going through the witnesses, or the only 2 people ever to be married on both poles. Yeah. Do you realize the Guinness Book of Records, their scam is they charge you money?
How much?
Well, to get on the preferred list, £1,000.
What's that in dollars? It's like
$1,400, $1,300. Most people don't pay it, and most people don't get in.
So you have to pay money to get on their stupid book?
Correct.
Even if you did something, like say if you jumped rope for 3 days straight and you made the Guinness Book of World Records, you'd have to pay to get in there.
It'd take you 6-7 years to get on.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Because that's their model. That's their
So they're just there to
model.
make money.
Yeah.
What a bunch of fuck.
And this is probably the first time that anybody's ever told anybody on public medium.
We've had like 4 firsts on this podcast. I'm pretty proud of that. You and me.
Yeah.
We've had, right? Haven't you said quite a few firsts?
Well, I want to say another one.
Okay.
My pet project right now is trying to put together a veteran program, and that I'm funding. I put up all the money. I don't want anybody's money, but so far, even though I had one of the world's largest talent agencies, and I had 10 of the top 15 production companies say that vets don't make good TV. Now, they won't say that in public.
What do they mean by vets don't make good TV?
Veterans don't make good TV unless they're wrestling around in the mud. That's what I've been told by some names that you probably know even. And I've been told by 4-star generals, names that positively everybody on this podcast would know. I've been told by congressmen, senators. I've been told by TV personalities, moving heads on, that all come out for vets. Except when they're asked to do something, and I don't want their money.
So what kind of stuff are you talking about? Like do something?
Okay, I mean, will you be on an advisory board saying that putting vets in business after they try to transition from the military to civilian life, and try to reduce the 22 vets that commit suicide a day. You know, and when on CBS they'll say yeah, but when you ask them to do something, they're not as generous with their time, and I could understand if I was asking them for money. But what I found out, Joe, all these guys, save a few, still need to make a living, and they're not going to get paid for this, so they have less time, pro bono time, and charity time than they let people on when they're on CNBC, etc.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Okay, so I've been asked to do a documentary expose. I've been asked. I haven't said I was going to do it because I don't really need that kind of publicity, but about this show that I've been trying to do.
Now, what is the show?
It's called Boots to Suits.
Boots to Suits. Okay, so taking them from the military and then
Correct.
teaching them how to be
And
successful
we've
in
had
business.
5 pilot programs at the castle where I do my seminars and with vets. Sometimes we make them.
You have a castle? Is that what you say? When you say at
yeah.
the castle, is that your house?
Yeah. I'm
you
not
live in a
trying to
castle?
brag. Yeah, I live in a 14th century storybook castle.
Get the fuck out of here. Where is it? Oh, you don't have to
Scotland.
tell me. You live in
No,
Scotland?
Yeah. Near St. Andrews.
Jesus, why do you live in Scotland? You live all over the place, man.
Yeah, because I wanted to be near the home of golf. When I retired, I tried to retire in my 30s. When I made,
and just play golf?
yeah, but it only lasted a couple months.
Retirement didn't suit
No,
you?
no, I
yeah,
mean,
you don't seem like a guy that can retire.
No, it didn't suit me. It doesn't suit me now. I haven't had to work for 37 years.
Now, how did you get involved in all this online stuff? Because that's how I found out about you, and I found out about you through Tom
serendipity.
Segura.
I mean, I got involved online because I own businesses that market online.
But you're a great online advice guy.
Yeah.
Like,
No. I mean, 5 of the top online money producers on the planet I trained.
Like, who are the top 5 guys?
Well, Matt Lloyd, Shakir Hussein.
I feel like this is like he's telling me
Pat
about all stars in a
Popius.
sport I don't follow.
Pat Popius.
Oh, Pat. Shakir, Pat. I know those dudes. No, I don't.
You know, these guys make $3 to $7 million a month.
Jesus. That's a lot of money.
I hope you're paying taxes, boys.
Pay that tax.
You know,
Especially now.
I know you. One of them for sure believes in no taxation without representation.
Oh, one of those guys, huh?
Yeah. In fact, almost all of them are that way.
Really?
Yeah. So, but I trained them, but I didn't train. You know, I know about impressions and traffic. I understand all that. But when Google changed their algorithms 10, 12 years ago, they used to want 100 guys that produced 100 million online. Now they want 10 million guys that produce 10,000 online.
Ah.
And so that's how they've built their platform. And Google is a great tool, but a better tool, in my judgment, for what I do is LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn is some shit that people from high school always send me. I'm like, bitch, I'm not joining your LinkedIn page.
Huh? Are you on LinkedIn?
No, but I get like invitations
to
join LinkedIn more than anything I ever get in online.
Okay.
And I don't join.
Well, I mean, LinkedIn is a professional thing.
I know, that's why it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're sending that crap to me.
But you're professional, even though you pretend not to be.
I pretend?
Yes.
Interesting. Is that your perception?
Yes,
I'm
it is.
pretending not to be. Assess me.
That's your shtick.
Oh, my shtick is that I pretend to not be professional?
No. Your shtick is you pretend to be outside the box. When I believe that you're more inside the box than these melonheads listening know or realize.
Well, like, what do you mean by in the box?
I mean, you have some. I know you're a libertarian, if my research is correct.
Pretty much.
Okay, and I realize, but I mean, you believe in some real down to earth values that are actually in the box that made America great. Would you disagree?
Yeah, probably. Define those. Like, what do you mean?
You've talked about. We've talked briefly about commitment, focus. honor,
hard work, discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
what made this country great.
Well, that's what makes people great.
Well, okay. Well, people make a
Comfort.
country.
Comfort is not what makes people great.
No, and the getting out of your comfort zone is the
Yes.
reason the millennials have such a hard time now.
Yeah, they're all sitting on the couch playing video games.
And
These
they're
fucks
still living
getting
at
food
home when they're
delivered.
34 years old.
That's true.
I
Yeah.
can't believe that.
Yeah.
When I was 18, I couldn't get out of the house quick enough.
But don't you think that that's sort of like what we always expect from the fall of civilizations? I mean, that's what we always were taught about Rome, right? That Rome got to be incredibly gluttonous, and then it all collapsed into the weight of its own
Greek, Rome,
bullshit.
yeah, correct.
And that's
And
kind
you
of
don't
like.
think you don't think that's going to happen to the U.S.
I think
or
it's
America?
happening. I think it's happening right now.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
But do you think can be changed? Can it be turned
Anything
around?
can be changed if we want to do it bad enough. We're willing to pay the price to action. It's going to be painful.
Well, I think people just need to understand that there's consequences. There's consequences that you pay to constantly seeking comfort and avoiding discomfort and avoiding hard work. And those consequences are you're never going to feel self-realized. You're never going to feel like you accomplished anything. You're never going to have this feeling of understanding that difficulty and struggle and the ability to push through that is a muscle, and you develop that muscle by
Correct.
doing it. And once you do, you develop a lot of self-satisfaction, and you develop peace of mind, and you understand that you can overcome obstacles. If you don't have to overcome obstacles, you never know whether or not you can. Like what you were talking about with trigger time. Unless you are faced with actual adversity, you don't understand how you're going to feel and how you're going to react when you overcome that adversity.
The one of the things I believe that I'm the best on the planet in doing is I get you to do what you don't want to do to be what you want to be.
What do I need to do? Tell me what to do.
Well, I don't. This is the first time I ever met you.
Oh.
You know, you're an enigma inside a what's that
A
saying?
riddle
Yeah.
wrapped in secret sauce.
Correct, something like that. Yeah. And but so I mean, hopefully this isn't the last time I'll ever talk to you. But I mean, you're an idol to several million people.
Those people need help. I'm the wrong guy.
Yeah. Well,
Keep moving. These are not the droids you're looking for.
yeah, and what I do, and before they put dirt on me in 50 more years, is I want to minimize people's regrets. Okay, and because we all have regrets, and I told you what my 3 regrets were earlier in your program here, but I mean to minimize regrets, and the millennials will have a different sort of regrets. Right now, for the past 7 or 8 years, we've had free money. Interest rates have been free. It's literally free. 100 years from now, they're going to say, what the fuck were you doing when they were giving away free money? I mean, literally. The people that are listening to this, 20 years from now, their children and grandchildren are going to say, Grandma, Grandpa, what the fuck were you doing other than having your thumb up your ass during the period of free money?
Now, when you say interest rates are free, you talking about business loans?
Correct. I mean, it's never going to get, well, it can only go up from here. And Yellen, the head of the Federal Reserve, has already upped them once, and she says, I guess she's going to up them a couple more times. But historically, interest rates ought to be 8, 10, 12, not 2, 3.
Right.
If you can't make a business proposition work at 2 or 3% interest, so you pay 1 or 2 points over that, which is the vigorish or the interest that they get for, you ought to swallow, and I only mean this metaphorically, kids, you ought to swallow a fucking revolver.
Wow. Strong words.
Because now, if you can't make money now, you ought to jump in front of a bus.
Now, when you go and do these seminars, like for
I only
that,
give them at the council. I don't give seminars around the world anymore. I stopped that in 2000 when the century changed.
but you just did this speech
Oh,
for
no,
this guy,
a
right?
2-hour speech.
That's
for
not a
nothing.
seminar?
No, it's not. I'm just
Okay.
doing it as, I guess they'd call it a solid.
Okay.
Is that the right word?
A solid? You doing a solid?
Yeah,
Okay.
does that mean
Yeah,
a favor?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm doing a favor for the guy.
But so the seminars are only at the castle. Like
Correct.
People have to come to your castle.
Correct.
And when they do, like, what do you work on them? What do
Well,
you?
they fill out about 120 pages of copious paperwork on them, psychological profiles, and a bunch of other stuff.
And do you have someone go over that, or do you go over that?
Personally.
And how many people do you do this with?
20 to 24 per seminar.
Wow. And how many days is a seminar?
8.
8 days. So the first
And
thing
you have
they
to dress
do,
in a suit.
you have to dress in a suit.
And you have to. It starts at 8 in the morning and goes till midnight.
Jesus Christ. So you basically going to sleep, getting up, going to work again.
Correct.
For 8 days.
Correct.
Wow.
And they can't use. I have 2 gymnasiums at the castle, but they can't use a gymnasium unless they earn it.
You have to earn it.
Yeah. In other words, you have to show me something that you got more than a jellyfish brain. The last 2 seminars didn't have any gym time.
No gym time.
No. No gym time.
So they just didn't earn it.
Yeah, they didn't earn it. And
Wow.
we had only about half of them cried the last seminar.
Only half?
Only half.
How come?
Well, the others maybe had a pair. I don't know.
When they cry, what are they crying from?
The buttons, the emotional buttons. We have 2 bank accounts in life. You as well.
Okay.
You as well. We have an emotional bank account and a financial bank account.
Okay.
Most people are not successful not because they run out of their financial bank account. They're not successful because they run out of the emotional bank account.
Huh, interesting. Like, how so?
Okay, I'll explain a little addition to that. People come to me for either they're inspired or desperate. Even the few people that think they're inspired aren't. They're desperate. I'm the last town saloon. You have tried Tony, Grant Cardone, Jay Abraham. You've tried every motherfucker that walks that tells you it's easy to be successful. I tell you just the opposite. It's a motherfucker to be successful. And so when you come to me and I look through your psychological profile and I measure you day by day, sitting there for 14, 16 hours a day, then you have 1 hour private time with me and I go through this, why you're really here. I ask you, what's the most defining moment in your life up to today? I mean, coming here. What's the most defining moment for your siblings? What's the most defining moment of your parents? Why do you think it's defining? Oh, my dad got out of jail for the last time, Okay, we've had convicted murderers at the seminar. Convicted murderers. Did their time, As long as you're not an obvious, and I'll get in trouble for this, obvious cross-dresser, you can come to the seminar.
What if you're like a non-obvious cross-dresser?
Well, I mean, if you wear your regular clothes, you should be wearing. In other words, if you're a man dressed like a woman,
right,
you got to dress like a man.
But what if you're a man who really looks like a woman and he's dressed like a woman?
Well, then
and
if
you
we don't know
identify
it,
as a woman?
I don't see him naked.
Okay, as long as you don't see him naked.
Yeah. As long as,
I understand. You just don't want any disruptions.
Correct.
You don't need any aberrations, anything that's weird that gets in the way of what you're trying to teach.
It's going to be weird anyway.
Right.
I mean, when you see grown men
cry,
bigger than me, sobbing uncontrollably,
But what causes them to this emotional bank account that you were talking about? You have a financial bank account and an emotional bank account.
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
A guy who was raised in a whorehouse. His mom is a whore. He knew that his mom was a whore since he's 6, 7, 8. He still lives in the whorehouse.
How old is he?
26.
Jesus Christ. How old is his mom?
50, I think 50.
Now, is she like oil or just like
I've never
price
met her. I
keeps
don't know.
going down per gallon?
I don't know, but she's the madam now.
Oh, I see.
She's not servicing too many.
That's crazy. And he lives there?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Now, what kind of baggage do you think that kid has?
Oh, he's fucked. Yeah.
Yep.
It's hard.
And what was the worst thing you ever saw your mother do? He, tears are streaming down his cheeks. And he goes, there's too many to count, Mr. Peña. Do you think about it every night? He says, yes. How did you know, Mr. Peña?
How do you not know?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's successful, the little shit.
Is he?
Yeah.
What's he do?
He's an engineer. He's rolling up small engineering firms.
Wow. That's a hard way to grow up, man.
Yep.
Ooh.
But, if love got the job done, we'd have a perfect world now. We'd have no wars if love got the job done.
Right.
Love doesn't get the fucking job done.
What does get the job done?
Pulling the trigger, taking action, following your dream.
So when you have these guys crying, you're just sort of exposing to them what emotional baggage they're carrying around with them that's hindering their professional life?
Correct. Well, that amongst a bunch of other stuff, yeah. But that's kind of could be a good summary.
So by this 8-day pressure cooker that you put these guys through, when you're making them work all day for 8 days in a row, you essentially establish this is what it's like to try to be successful. You have to fucking
not just be successful, to be a high performance. My market is to turn people into the top. Let's just say the 7 billion people on the planet.
Right.
My market is 700,000. You want to be one of those 700,000 high performance individuals, you come and see me.
I want to go right now.
Okay.
I'm not even a businessman.
Now,
I'm fucking ready.
last week, the week before last, we made just 3 announcements of 3 of our guys. one guy who is a monkey, looks like you were talking about chimpanzees?
Yeah.
He looks like a chimpanzee. He did a $1 billion deal with Goldman Sachs.
Whoa.
He couldn't spell Goldman Sachs or billion.
And he did a $1 billion deal.
And he actually looks like a chimpanzee.
It's like a
Okay,
short,
another
squat
guy
Is he
did a
yoked?
$181 million deal. An Australian. He weighs 200 kilos.
That's a lot. That's a big fucker.
Big fucker.
That's like 400 pounds, isn't
yeah,
it?
440 pounds. During the graduation on we went to Edinburgh for New Year's Eve. He got stuck in the toilet in the bus.
He got stuck. He couldn't get out.
Yeah.
How'd you get him out?
I
Grease him
wasn't
up?
there. My wife said, "Why aren't we going on the bus with him?"
Oh,
I said,
Jesus.
"Because shit's going to happen, and I don't want to be there."
Literally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, and another guy. Now get this. He had a closing. He came to me when he was 17 years old. He had a closing in Washington D.C. A few days ago when Sally and I were there. When you close a financial deal, you have to have 2 sources of ID now because of money laundering, etc. He had a passport. His second source of ID was a driver's permit because he's not old enough to have a driver's license.
Whoa.
He had a driver's permit and a passport. He did a $3 million deal.
Jesus.
He's a teenager. The reason why teenagers do better is because they have less baggage.
That makes sense. They haven't had as much life wearing them down.
Not as much scar tissue. Got some scar tissue.
Scar tissue. That's real shit, right?
Now, if you take a kid 18 that's got physical attributes, you can train him into being an MMA guy probably easier than you take a 38-year-old.
100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Well, unless they're a super freak athlete that's been involved in something very
Speaking
physical.
of super freak athletes, the black guy, Jones.
John Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he still around?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Somebody broke. No, he's not the guy that got a broken leg.
No, that's Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
Anderson Silva
Okay,
broke
but
his leg.
didn't Jones finally get beat?
Jones has never lost.
Okay.
The only time he lost was he was disqualified in a fight against Matt Hamill where he was dropping. It's a really stupid rule, but you're not allowed when you're on top of a guy to drop an elbow from the 12 to 6 position.
Yeah. Okay.
So he got disqualified, but he beat the fuck out of that guy.
But he's still
and
around.
wound up lost. Yeah. He's on the suspension right now for testing positive for a banned
That's
substance.
right. And De Silva came back.
Anderson Silva came
With
back.
that broken
yeah.
leg. I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That was terrible. That's one of 2 broken legs I've ever seen like that live. I've seen him on videos before, but being there live.
Can you hear it snap?
I did not hear it snap, but I saw it give out, and I saw him fall down, and I knew what it was. The first time I'd ever seen it was a guy named Corey Hill. He threw this kick, and the same thing. His kick got checked, and his legs just snapped out from under him. And that time, the referee didn't see it. The referee didn't know the guy had a broken leg, and we were screaming at the referee to stop the fight. It was.
I was at Mike Tyson's when he won the championship in Vegas.
Oh, really? Wow.
And I was in the 3rd row, and De Niro and a bunch of the Italian guys were behind me, DeVito. And the guy that lost, that he beat, looked like he was going to lose. He looked afraid of Tyson.
Yeah.
But Tyson was hitting with such velocity, the perspiration on the guy's head was flying over the first 2 rows onto me in the 3rd row. I mean, he was hitting like with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, when he was in his prime, he was something special. He really was. There's a really interesting article I just read about him in Sports Illustrated. It's fascinating seeing him now at 50 years old, family man, doing his Vegas show. And
I bet you can still hit.
Oh, fuck yeah. There was a video of him hitting the bag. Still terrifying. I mean, he's still Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest boxers of all time, the most fearsome heavyweight that ever lived. In his prime, there was nobody like him.
Yeah, I was on a Concord with Muhammad Ali, and he had his Angelo Dundee. Is that the guy? He had his entourage with him.
Yeah.
And he was very nice, man. Very nice. Only met him that one time, and that's not true. I was in the Cotton Club in 1978. Cotton Club, black nightclub used to be, and there was a black comedian, and I was trying to. Red
Fox?
Red Fox. And I'm the only white guy in the audience.
Whoa.
And he said something about white people. So I had been tuned up pretty good. And back in 78, I thought I was pretty tough. I stood up and I said something back to him. Now, this went over like a turd in a punch bowl. I mean, all these people that are around me, all the color of Fox. And so Fox is, hey, you come up here. And so I go, and then Muhammad Ali was sitting about 6 tables over, and he protected me. He said, "We got to let this white boy alone. I mean, we don't want a problem here." So then I say, "Well, yeah, you don't have to protect me." And I just was idiot.
Just a silly young man.
Yeah. And I tried to pay the bill, and Muhammad Ali says, "No, your money's not good here. Your money's not
And they
good."
kicked you out?
Oh no. Yeah, they didn't, not forcibly, but
they essentially let you know, tonight's over.
Yeah, the night's
Take
over.
care. Get out of here with your life.
You're correct. But anyway, so, yeah, I had a big mouth.
Listen, Dan Peña, you've lived a very interesting life.
Thank you.
You really have. And so if people want to learn more about your stuff, and if anybody ever wants to go to the castle and go through this crazy 8-day seminar, how do they get in touch with you?
DanPeña.com.
All right. And it's Dan S. Peña is your Twitter handle, and I put it up on my Twitter.
Yeah, or Google $50 billion man.
All right, buddy.
Because I've created $50 billion for guys just like you, Joe.
Just like me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate you doing that.
Well,
appreciate you coming on here, too. It was a pleasure meeting
Thank
you.
you. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
That's it, folks. We'll be back on Sunday. We're not going to be here Saturday, but we're going to do a recap of the fights. We're going to watch them on Sunday. So see you then. Bye.
Stem cell.